Today on the Region Free Gamers podcast, Last Cloudia, Xenoblade Chronicles, and because we cannot be stopped with Paramecium alone, Forgotten Worlds.
Welcome to the Region Free Gamers podcast, the podcast that is fluent in gaming. Today, I am your host, Kelly Branford, as we get an update from everyone on exactly what games we have been playing. But of course, I've got my crew with me here today, and first off, we have Arnie. Arnie, how are you doing today, Arnie?
Whoop whoop, doing good, Kelly. I am very excited to talk about my games today.
Very excited? Put a lot of hours into them?
Oh, too many hours.
Nice. And next up, we have Mike. Good morning, Mike. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Good morning, Kelly. I am also excited to talk about the games I have. Did not spend nearly as much time as that. In fact, it's going to be amazing. I think this is probably the shortest amount of time I've spent on 2 games ever and still completed them. It's going to be great.
What's kind of funny is I'm in the middle there. I can't say I've spent a ton of hours on these games, but at the same time, the one game that I'm talking about, it will never end. So I'll probably keep playing it until it dies. But, but we'll get to that. And last up, Paul. Paul, how are you doing today, Paul?
I am doing great, and I can't wait to hear about all the hours Arnie spent uncovering waifus.
Ooh, uncovering waifus, yes. And Paul, I hear something about you have your in-laws in town? What's going on with that?
Lordy.
This is where we're at. This is where we're at now.
First of all, how do your in-laws feel about
the shelves?
Making the
shelves
up to the Yukon?
They're fine. Like they enjoy coming up here, and we've had really nice weather lately, so I can't really complain. It's not like it was a month ago where we were basically shut-ins, but yeah, no. I like my in-laws, man. I'm happy they're coming up. They are staying what I would say is an appropriate amount of time, which is 1 week.
Okay.
Longer than a week.
I agree with that one. So.
Yep. Longer than a week, and it's just a bit too much. They arrive 2 days from now, and they arrive at midnight, like during the work week.
Huh.
Wait a second. Immediate question.
Please.
So if they're arriving at midnight, does the week time limit start the day they've arrived or the following day?
Good question.
It really depends on the jet stream and how fast the plane can make it here.
Gotcha.
That's kind of what we're looking at, because if the plane arrives at 11:58, well, that's an entire day extra, right? But if it arrives at 12:02, then, good news for us, they're only here for 6 days, and that's amazing. So I'm really thrilled about that.
Yeah. Do you ever put your thumb on the scale? Like, do you ever get on the horn with the pilots? Like, listen, if you could just take it around a couple more times. I'm trying to get to 12:01 here.
Yeah, immediately sent to jail. Like, it's just probably the worst, one of the worst things you could do, like abuse of authority. Like, I don't feel like telling you guys it's okay. To come down.
This is also me assuming I don't even know where Paul lands on the hierarchy. I'm just assuming there's a big red phone in his house he can pick up to get on the horn with.
No, I can
whoever.
do that kind of thing, but it would have to be at work, and I would have to have a really good reason. I'd have to have a really good reason to tell a jet to be like, hey, do you mind doing a little loop? I just need 5 minutes.
So you're looking at your clock, it's like 11:58. You're like, just do one more turn, man. And they'll come down at 12:02. And then later in the report,
it's not looking good down here.
Later in the report, they're like, Mr. Arnaldo, can you please explain why this happened? And you'd be like, well, 6 days instead of 7.
I think they get it. If you told them
your concept of time kind of reminds me of my husband's, because I can remember when he would go on vacations alone, and I'd be like, you're gone for 10 days, and he's like, no, I leave on Monday and I'm back on this day, and those days don't count because they're traveling days, and you'll see me then. So I'm really only gone 8 days, and I'm just like, no. Is that a guy thing or something? I'm not sure.
Absolutely.
Okay, does anybody here remember the Seinfeld episode, because I just saw it like last week. The Seinfeld episode where Jerry and Elaine go to Florida, and Jerry and they have to sleep on a sofa bed that destroys Elaine's back.
It's like one of my favorite episodes. It's the Stella episode.
Yes, the Stella episode.
Yeah.
That is like unbelievable how accurate it is to what my in-laws are like. I had to show Christy like that night. I'm like, yo, you got to watch this episode. This is your parents. This is us in Toronto when we go visit them, begging to put the air conditioning on and trying to survive the sofa bed. It's like, it's friggin' perfect. But thankfully they're coming up here so we can sleep in our actual bed and not have our back destroyed. Anyhow.
Well, before we do get started on the games today, I do want to give a shout out to all of our listeners out there. We really enjoy talking about games, and we're glad you enjoy listening to us talking about games. We would love to hear from you guys. So if you want to, all of our information can be found at Linktree at Region Free Gamers. And guys, I am begging you, please join our Discord. I need more people to tell Paul how wrong he is for only playing through Ending A of Nier Automata. Yes,
I
Paul,
apologize for nothing.
this will be ongoing until I can convince you you need to finish that game.
I will never
It's
go
going
back
to go
to that
on
game.
forever. Oh, God.
Paul opens up A Tale of Two Cities. He's like, it was the best times, it was the worst times. I think I got it. I think that's about good enough.
Look, if Nier Automata was A Tale of Two Cities, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. And then there's another sentence, it was the worst of times, it was the best of times. And then the next sentence would be, there were times, some were bad, some were good. I'm just playing the same game
No, but you're not.
over and over, and it has a
the
different
end.
ending.
And then it will say the end. And then you don't have to turn like 20 pages of blank. And then I go, oh, there's more.
Yeah.
And then you read a bit more, and then it would say the end. Again, you go, okay, is this for sure the end? They're like, yeah, wink, wink. And then you have to flip like 100. By the way, I'm just fucking with you, Kelly. Like, again, like, you know my stance on this ending thing. I think Nier Automata is a weird outlier, and that's that. And it's okay.
One ending.
Gotta see the whole thing.
One ending.
Paul is
please.
right. Paul is right. Kelly is right. It's okay. It's okay.
No, Mike. There can only be one. There can only be one.
And it must be me.
Dude, this is unstoppable force. Unstoppable force meets a movable object, all right? This is just I'm telling you, this isn't gonna end well. It's not gonna end. That's it.
It won't, but I do need more people to weigh in on our Discord. So please, everyone, join our Discord and let us know what you think
Yes, please.
about
Yes.
this huge controversy about the ending of Nier Automata. All right then, Paul, what have you been playing lately, and how's it been going?
Well, the games have been going great. I haven't really played that many bad ones this year so far. Now, I'm trying to think of if I've played any bad games that I've bounced off of, but yeah, no, for the most part, been pretty good. The closest thing to a bad game that I might have played has been, and I don't even know how to pronounce it, it's Psyvariar Delta, which just saying it is like, oh man, RER is not a good sounding combination of vowels and consonants, but anyway.
Yeah.
Wow.
Cyvariar
Real shade
Delta.
on RER of Sorrow over there.
R.E.R. R.E.R. of sorrow.
Ay. So yeah, Psyvariar Delta, like they just kind of keep re-releasing this game. First released in 2000 on the Pew. Really the prolific developers. You might know them from Cotton, another shmup, and Operation Darkness. Arnie, Mike.
Hell fucking
I'm
yes,
still stuck on the fact that somebody was like, you know what, I'm gonna name my company
Success.
There's only one way to not fail.
It's such a great name, dude.
But they've been around forever. Like that's the thing. They've been around for well over 20 years. So, I mean,
he put it
can't
up on his
really
vision
argue.
board. It fucking happened.
Yeah. And they made Operation Darkness and they're still around. Like it's amazing.
I mean, honestly, if anybody who made that game should still be around by law, like that shit, Congress should get on that.
Yeah,
Belongs
no,
in
they
a
have to
museum.
keep releasing games. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, Psyvariar Delta, PS4, Steam, Switch. It's available almost everywhere. I played it on the PS5. It's not a PS5 version. It's just a PS4 game on the PS5.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, they've re-released it. They've revised it too, like a million times. There's like Psyvariar, and then there's like God, I hate saying that word, but they have another one like regular. Then the last one is Delta, and yeah, it's based on Psyvariar Complete for the PS2. So when they say complete, they're not kidding. They just renamed Complete Delta now for the PS4. I don't know, man.
So weird.
Yeah, it's weird, and I don't know what to say about this game. Like, it seems like most shmups now, they have kind of like this kind of a core mechanic, and the one in Psy Delta, I'm just gonna call it Psy Delta now.
Yes.
The one in thank you. The one in Psy Delta, they call it the bump mechanic, which is shades of Falcom. But basically what it means is that, so you shoot your little lasers and you destroy enemies, you get XP, and you level up and you get stronger weapons, right? And that's all well and good.
Right.
But you can also gain XP by getting close to bullets so that you don't hit them, but you bump them. And then you get XP for that. So the point is to not only kill as many enemies as possible, but also to get close to as many bullets as possible. Some people also might want to let the enemies live a little bit longer, so they fire more bullets, so you can, get more XP and so on. Arnie's shaking his head. I don't disagree, dude. I'm getting there. So the problem arises. There's several problems that arise here. One is that you get greedy. Like, I can't help it. I get greedy. I'm like, I want max XP, so I'm just going to let them keep firing. And then suddenly you're just mired in bullets and there's no way to escape. And it's like, all right, I'm done. That said, though, the game is pretty generous. Like, you don't necessarily have to do that. You still get like up to level, 90 something. You get into the hundreds. It's ridiculous. You level up every 2 seconds. So you kind of get that constant like dopamine, like level up, level up, level up. They do that for a reason. The reason is that whenever you level up, you get about 1.5 seconds of invincibility. So really good players, aka not me, will like time it so that they get into a tight spot, level up, and then get out of the tight spot. It's in theory terrible. And in practice, it's really difficult to kind of take advantage of that level up system. More often than not, what would happen is I'd be just about to die, and then my ship would level up, and then I'm like, oh my god, and then I can escape. And it's completely by fluke. Like, I just can't, it's not really something that I can plan for.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an interesting game, man. It takes like, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes to beat.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's quick. You tear through it really fast. The point is to kind of do multiple runs to get secret bosses. Some bosses are locked. You need to reach a certain level in order to unlock them. So again, start getting greedy with the bullets in order to reach level 124 to fight like a particular secret boss. However, they need a manual in this game. Like, it feels like ever since Battle Garega.
Right.
Battle Garega, if you guys remember, famously punishes you for doing well.
Oh,
It's the original game where you collect more power-ups and the game gets harder.
Battle Garega is like the Chad. It's like the Chad of shmups.
Oh my god, it's
literally
so
the opposite of life.
Yeah.
Oh, it really is. And I shouldn't say it's the original. There are games that's before that scale difficulty with your power level, but Garega is like the worst offender because like there are parts in the game where you have to die on purpose in order to just kind of like reset things, and you don't. Anyway, whatever.
Yeah.
And there's no manual. There's nothing in the manual explaining Battle Garega's system. It's just a bunch of people getting smashed and being like, what is going on with this game? This is horrendous. And Psyvariar Delta is, damn it, Psy Delta is not like that, but it needs a manual, man. Like I was going through the Wikipedia page after playing it for a few hours, and there were these mechanics that I was like, oh, I didn't know about that. Oh, I didn't know about that. Like, man, just give me a manual. Like, the manual in that game consists of, you start, and then it's like, press this button to shoot, press this button to roll, off you go, Padawan.
That's it.
Become a Jedi. And it just doesn't work that way. Like, for example, if you roll in the game, like, you can hold a shoulder button, and then your plane goes into this little roll, right? And what it does is it tightens up your firing pattern. You don't fire wide, you fire focused, and it's more powerful. But what the game doesn't tell you is that if you roll, your hitbox also becomes smaller. So you could potentially dodge through bullet patterns that you aren't able to dodge through while you're not rolling. I didn't know this, and I spent hours just getting destroyed. Mike, you were about to say.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, when you're talking about, I mean, looking at the Wikipedia is never a good sign. Like, if you have to, like, go look at Wikipedia for a game, it's usually not a good sign. But, like, when you talk about, like, the stuff is poorly explained, I was going to ask if it's just the scoring systems and stuff like that. But then you just mentioned, like, a key mechanic. So it looks like it doesn't really explain key mechanics that well either. I'm looking at footage now and I'm like, how does the hitbox, like, I guess I kind of understand in theory how, like, spinning would sort of like make the hitbox a little smaller, but kind of also not. Like, I don't know.
Nah, but it does, and I didn't realize that until later.
Yeah.
So it just kind of feels like
full color manuals and 15, 16-page manuals in every game.
That would be nice.
Or
at the very least something online. You know what I mean? Like, just something to help me out here. So anyway, whatever. I mean, it was like I spent like 3 or 4 hours on it total, because the nice thing about it is that it is bite-sized. Like, this isn't a compile shmup where it's going to take you an hour, right?
Right.
So you kind of want to play it a few times just to beat the different versions and to get higher scores and to kind of like figure things out. It's not a bad game per se, but it is flawed. And for a game that has been released 10,000 times, I'm just a little bit surprised that they didn't add a little bit more to it. But
is it really difficult, or is it just difficult to get like a high score and to kind of like, to feel, or is it just difficult to like do well at it? And
I think it's difficult to do well at it.
Right.
Like,
okay.
You will beat the game. Like, there are infinite continues. So you really Your challenge is to kind of 1cc it, right? To beat it on 1 credit.
Yeah.
And that's possible. Like, I actually did it. There are trophies for it, but it's not like when you get to the final boss, it's brutal, because like during the course of the game you level up a lot, right? And so there are a lot of tight spots where you'd otherwise die, where your plane suddenly levels up and then you get the hell out of the way, right? You go somewhere where there aren't any bullets, and that's great. But once you fight bosses, the level ups kind of dry up because there aren't any enemies to kill, and you can get close to the bullets, but it's slow, right? And the final boss especially, there are bullet patterns, and I'm like, I just don't know how to get by these bullet patterns. Like, they're so dense that it's like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Like, I just can't.
Yeah. And like no bombs left. Like, do bombs clear bullets?
Bombs clear bullets, yeah, but
how do you earn them?
Don't.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, you get
start with 3 and that's it.
Yeah, you get 3 per credit, and then you don't earn any more than that. I could be wrong, actually. It's been a few weeks since I played.
Okay.
If only there was a manual that would have explained that to me. Because Mike, I had that question as I was playing. I'm like, how do I get more bombs? You get more extra lives when you get a higher score. That's kind of par for the course. But the bombs, no, I don't remember.
Is this the game? I'm trying to remember. And actually, plug for our Discord, why you should join. I believe this is the game that I saw you live on our Discord be like, I'm playing this game. Next message. This game sucks. I don't get it. Next message. Maybe I do get it? Maybe something's happening here? Next message. Actually, I like this game now. This is a good game.
Such a perfect shmup. It's such a perfect shmup.
Like within the course of like maybe an hour or so.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And in the course of that hour, I beat the game twice.
Yes.
Damn.
But I eventually reached that like I get it, and then went back downhill again to actually I don't really like it that much. It's
what a journey you've been on.
Been there.
Yeah, it was an emotional ride. Absolutely.
All in the course of like an hour.
One might say it was the best of times. One might say it was the worst of times.
The blurst of times.
Sexy ninja lady pulls out
wait,
katana.
How many times did you play this game and see the credits roll? Because let's just say.
Well, Kelly.
Oh yeah, and there's
Fucking run
added
up the
bosses.
score.
There's added bosses, so maybe those are different endings.
It's once. I beat the game once. That's all. Let's not get greedy. Also, it's not a competition. I've said this before.
It's true. Yeah,
our game tracking spreadsheets is not a competition.
It is. It is not. It is not.
So,
it's really cool. Kidding aside, it's really cool seeing what everybody's playing and also hearing about it. Like it's really, really cool. It's a lot of fun.
I agree. I think it's I love seeing everybody's
also mad respect, man, because like you guys are machines, dude. Like I hear about like, you know, even people on this call right now, as we'll find out, are just mainlining like these massive sagas of games, and I'm sitting here playing Picross. I'm not talking about Picross today, but that'll be it for another day. Sorry, Paul, I was gonna ask, like, so number one, actually, it looks like in Psyvariar Delta, I believe it's the buzz system.
Buzz,
not the bump
thank
system.
You.
Because
right.
I was sitting there, I was like, dude, man, Japan's pretty whack sometimes, but like, I don't know why they would call it a bump system if you can't touch the bullets.
No, you're right. It is buzz. And Mike, I knew it as I was saying it. I knew it was wrong. But I did that podcaster thing where if I just say it with enough confidence, then it must be correct.
Yeah,
there you go.
100%.
World around you.
So you're not as. It sounds like it's a very. I mean, I'm gonna say it's like Gray's Counter, even though Gray's Counter I don't think is the first game to have bullet grazing be a mechanic either. But
no.
So correct me if I'm wrong. I guess you're not into games where you bullet graze, because I don't know. I kind of am. I kind of dig that mechanic. Like there's some cool risk reward there, or is it just how it's handled in this game? Like it's
how it's. I never had an issue with that mechanic. It was always fine, because it's nice to pick up extra value during parts of the game that are slow, because you're not just always getting bombarded with bullets at all times, right? A lot of it is very manageable, and so it's nice to pick up extra value when you can. I have no issue with that. It's just some of the other stuff, the lack of explanation, some of the like impossible bosses, stuff like that. And to be fair, I didn't go onto YouTube. If I had gone onto YouTube, I'm sure that I would have seen someone handle these bosses with ease. Yeah. Because that's usually how it goes. But I certainly couldn't. Because like when you have an entire blanket of bullets, right? And you can kind of dodge between them, that's one thing. But when you have a blanket of bullets and then a second blanket of bullets coming at you off speed, then it's like, all right, what am I supposed to do here? It's just a little bit too difficult for me to enjoy. Yeah. And I realize that that's kind of the point of these bullet hell games, but it is what it is. It's not for everybody. And this game was good. It just could have been, with a little bit of explanation, I probably could have enjoyed it more. I'm not going to go back to it now that I know the mechanics. Like, I'm done with it.
It doesn't seem like there's much in terms of like cool presentation or like epic music or characters or atmosphere that way either.
It's got like
it's a really strict,
two like anime children on the cover.
Yeah,
that's all you need.
You never see them during the game at all.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, it's very sterile. It's a score attack game. Like there's no, what I mean. I keep coming back to Caladrius Blaze, which, like, I know it. Like, here's the thing: Caladrius Blaze is actually a great shmup. If everybody just kept their clothes on, it would be awesome. It has a story mode.
Who cares?
Yeah, like it has a story mode. I mean, the story mode's awful. It's, it's a shmup, right? But at least it's a story mode.
Yeah.
It just, they just need sturdier. They need a sturdier tailor. They need a better tailor for their clothing. Is
what do you think you get like more creative freedom on? Fighting game story modes or shmup story modes?
Ooh, good question.
Fighting game,
right? Because you have to write a story for like 30 people.
Yeah, for sure.
My major problem with the story modes on these shmups is most of the time they don't have the budget to translate them. So here I'm trying to dodge all these bullets while I have to read a screen because it's in Japanese.
No, thank
you. It's like, this shit isn't going to happen.
No, thank you. It's a trap. It's such a trap. You look at the subtitle,
Some
dead.
games are really bad.
Yep.
Some games are really bad for it too. Like it's just really egregious, and you're like, "Come on, dudes!" Like
Astabreed on the PS4 is one of them.
Oh, I tried playing that game, and I was like, I guess I must just suck at shmups. I can't fucking live in this game. That's what I was
actually pretty good at. So
I know that one you can get good at it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's a dope game.
But then I had to read all the stuff. I was like catching like fragments of sentences. I was going by.
I know.
Yeah, I still have no idea what the story of that game is. So
me neither.
And I've probably played through it like 20 times. No idea. Don't care.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good one. Maybe I should have talked about that one today, but here we are.
Alas.
Well, Paul, what else have you been playing?
The other one is a game that I played back in December. Arnie recommended it to me.
The rare Arnie to Paul pipeline.
Yeah. No, dude, I play a lot of the games you recommend. You don't know it. Like Moonlighter, for example. I mean, I'll never play Digimon. Come on, let's not kid ourselves. But Dicey Dungeons, yes.
Hey,
and I picked it up again recently because one of our dear patrons, Christina, the Retro Vixen, who, by the way, man, I gotta look up her Instagram handle and plug her here because she's also a game writer.
Yep.
And like her work is good. And if you're like me, and you have an insatiable appetite for video game writing of all different kinds, then yeah, you should be absolutely following her. Yeah, it's _retro_vixen. And on her Instagram account, there's a link to her Medium page where all her articles are. So
it'll just be 7 Ethereum for that plug. So I'll get with her. I'll DM her.
Tomorrow it'll be worth 3 times as much, and the next day it'll be worth like 4 times less.
$2.
Oh my god!
Yeah. So I mentioned her because she mentioned that she was playing it, and then either on her Instagram story or she DM'd me or something. She DM'd me something about it. The main antagonist in that game is just like a woman, and she always says nasty things to you. And Christina eventually was like, fuck this game. Like, I'm done with this bitch. Like, she can go to hell. And I'm like, yeah, Dicey Dungeons. That's right. That game did end up being a little bit difficult. I should revisit it. Yes. As soon as Christina was like, fuck this game, I'm never going to play it again. I was like, that was my cue to be like, yeah, I should pick this up. I should pick this up again. And so I did. And I'm glad I did. Because the level that I previously thought was impossible, I actually just misread one of the rules. And then once I figured it out, I was like, oh, okay, I get it. And then I was able to beat that level and move on to the next one. So Dicey Dungeons, this one, man, I can't recommend this game enough. So this one's Steam, Xbox, Switch, not on PlayStation, which is kind of rare for a game that we talk about here.
That is interesting.
Yeah. August 2019 released Terry Kavanagh, the guy who did VVV.
Is that enough V's? I don't think that's enough V's.
I think it is. I think it's 6 V's. Anything more is like, Jesus Christ,
that's
what are we
too
doing
many
here?
V's.
Now I've got to see.
Yeah.
We've exceeded our V cap for today.
But yeah, Terry Kavanagh, he's pretty prolific. I didn't even realize that he made Dicey Dungeons until I was looking stuff up for this episode. But man, way to go, Terry. He's just knocking these games out of the park, like these very quick, easy indie games. And Dicey Dungeons, man, oh man. So the best way I can describe it is roguelike, Slay the Spire, but with dice.
Oh boy.
You sound so excited, Mike.
I'm just imagining. I'm just like, can we just like point the mic or the camera at Paul and just kind of come back 2 hours later? Like, I'm really excited to hear about that. No. Like I do want to hear about it. Like, I do want to hear about it because like this is definitely something that would go under my radar. So like, I'm kind of stoked on it. I kind of love that the villain is called Lady Luck too, which is just kind of a great turn of phrase, and it looks super charming and like super fun. It's so hard not to kind of dig this and want to try it.
Yeah, no, great cute character designs, upbeat music the whole way through, and just a great mechanic. Like, on the surface of it, you kind of collect weapons. You know, you get 6 different characters, and they all kind of have different weapons and rule sets and so on. And over the course of a given run, which is usually anywhere from 40 to 60 minutes, depending on how quickly you can go through it.
Okay.
You will collect different weapons, you'll adjust your kind of loadout and upgrade your weapons as you go on. And you get X amount of dice per round per fight, right? So you go, then the opponent goes, then you go, then the opponent goes. It's like most card battling games, right? The thing is that, like, let's say, for example, I'm carrying a regular sword. Like, I've got a warrior, right? The sword is do X amount of damage, where the dice is the damage, right? Let's say I'm playing as the thief. The thief has something that can freeze an opponent's dice, but you can only use odd-numbered dice. Or, for example, you have a weapon that burns your opponent's dice, but you can only use even-numbered dice to activate it. So, on the surface, this sounds like a recipe for frustration, because you roll the dice. We've all played Settlers of Catan. You roll the dice and you get fucked, and you're like, this game sucks, right? Like, I just can't get the good dice rolls.
Yeah.
The brilliance of Dicey Dungeons is that every single character has a means, a limited means, but a means to manipulate your dice rolls in order to get what you need, right?
Okay.
So you can, for example, there's my favorite dice manipulation tool is called the spatula. The spatula flips a dice over on its side. So a 3 becomes a 4, a 2 becomes a 5, or a 1 becomes a 6. And you get multiple uses of the spatula each turn. Usually 2, if you upgrade the spatula, I think you get 3. Or maybe it's 1 and 3. But anyway, whatever. The point is, the spatula is awesome. Those subtle things that you can do, eventually you can kind of like create really good builds as you go through the game. Like, for example, my favorites are the Thief and the Witch. The Thief and the Witch, they have access to a mechanic called freezing, where you can, like I said, freeze your opponent's dice. And what it does is it takes your opponent's highest roll and turns it into a 1. And it's devastating. Like, I've had games where I just completely lock out the final boss, and they can't do anything because I just keep freezing their dice over. It's so satisfying. It's so satisfying just locking out a boss completely. And you get an achievement for it too, which is fun, right? Beat a boss without taking damage. So, or for example, there's the Jester. The Jester is the last character you unlock, and the Jester works a lot more like Slay the Spire, where you have weapons, but they're all cards. You don't get to adjust your loadout. You just keep collecting cards. But usually there's a way to delete cards from your deck, right? And again, you can kind of build it so that your deck is super consistent, and no matter what dice you roll, usually you're okay. So it's great, man. Like, it's, like I said, 40 to 60 minutes. It's a breeze. It's an acceptable, I think, level of difficulty. I'm going to have to talk to Christina about this again, because I suspect she might have got stuck on the same level that I did, because it was the only time in the game where the rule... I say that I misread the rule, but if it's 2 of us, then it goes from being misread to the rule being poorly explained.
Yeah.
What was can I ask what it was? Like, what was
Yeah. It's, so there's one jester round, one jester game, because the game is divided up into let me just backpedal
Yeah,
here
it's
for a
40 to
second.
60 minutes per run, and each character I think has like 10 runs, 10 different levels that you have to get through. 6, sorry.
Yeah, 6 characters, and each character has 6 episodes, and each episode makes adjustments to the rule set so that it feels
They have a
fresh
different condition
every
of
time.
victory or like a specific thing you have to abide by.
Yes, exactly. And so the third Jester episode, what happens is you collect all the weapons that your opponents use. You take all of them all the time. You cannot say no. You cannot choose. You must take all their stuff. Now, for anybody who's played a deck building game, you know that that's terrible.
Yeah.
Because you want your deck to be as tight as possible. You want as little chaff as possible. In that episode, you can, during the course of a battle with an enemy, you can delete a card from your deck, right? What the game doesn't explain is that when you delete that card from your deck, it's not just for that battle. And so I was like, holy shit, man, I have to go through each battle and delete all these cards every single time. This is horrendous. Like, I'm never going to win. And so I put the game down like several weeks ago. And then again, Christina, complained about it. And I was like, yeah, maybe I'll look at it again. So that's what it was. It just wasn't explained. It wasn't, or like I said, I misread it because, But yeah, Arnie, like, what did you think? Because I know you played it for a while.
I really enjoyed it. I just got burnt out on it, so I might come back to it later. But it just really, there comes a point, I think, like the first 2 to 3 episodes of each person, I'd say are pretty straightforward. Some of them are kind of hinky, but for the most part, I think I at least made it to episode 3 on every single character. Yeah. And then after that, it starts like you have to be really optimized in some of these to even like survive to the boss.
Yeah.
So it just, the curve is there. I think what the game expects you to do is to find a couple characters that you really enjoy and grind those out first and then deal with everything else. But it just gets a little frustrating because it's one of those things where it's like there's nowhere to turn at a certain point where it's like, okay, I keep getting my ass kicked on this guy. Let me try this other guy. Nope, nothing there. And then you sort of like get to the end of the thing and you're like, fuck, I guess I just got to sit down and grind one guy until I can beat it. But I don't want to do that right now.
Yeah. And it's funny. You're correct. Like the episode 4 for every single character is standard rule set, but your opponents have 10% extra health and all their items are upgraded.
Yeah.
Which is a giant pain. And I beat episode 4 yesterday with the warrior, and it was literally like beating it felt so good. It was down to the final boss, and the boss probably had me dead next round, and I needed to do exactly 17 damage in order to beat the boss. And the warrior, his dice manipulation is a reroll. You get to reroll a dice 3 times, and I needed a 2. I needed a 2 in order to win, and I rerolled, and on my second reroll I got the 2. And I did exactly 17 damage, which was the maximum amount that I could do, and I won. And I was like, yes! It was, oh my God. It felt so great. But it was hard, man. Like, it's that 10% extra health and the added items is like, ooh, it's brutal. It's brutal.
It's one of those games that like is deceptively difficult. Like it doesn't, the art style is very like cartoony and goofy. It does that Cuphead thing. And then the first like round of every character, except for I think I had trouble with the Jester, but everybody else I was like, oh, okay, I got pretty whatever. And the second round was it's a little harder, but like I figured it out. And by the third round I was like, oh, this is fucking hard. Now there's like 3 more after this. Like, god damn it.
The Jester especially is like a completely different game.
Yeah.
Because it's like a card collecting game, and it's just it's totally different, and you have to just completely change your mindset. When I'm looking at my win-loss records, I see first episode, it's usually like 1-1 because I'm just like figuring it out. And then after that it's 1-0, 1-0, 1-0. And I always found that the warrior was the most difficult. Like the warrior was just kind of like, attack, defend, attack, defend, attack, defend. Very little very little dice manipulation, very few status effects that you can inflict on your opponents. And it always felt like it was tooth and nail. And I'm like, man, I must suck with the warrior. And I look at my record and it's like 6-1 or something, or 5-1 with the warrior. I'm like, holy shit, man, I thought the warrior was terrible. And then I look at the thief, who I adore. Like, I love the thief. And my record's like 3-3. You know, the witch, I look and it's like 4-3. Like, geez, this is a little bit weird.
Yeah, I like the robot.
I know you like the robot. The robot's actually my least favorite.
I know.
It's so weird. I want to see you play with the robot so I can see what it is.
It's been so long at this point, I'd have to like relearn it. But I was in a groove with the robot. I was having fun.
Damn, dude. Yeah, no, I always found the robot to be a little bit...
The thing about the robot, at least the thing that helped me a lot, was that, like, because the gimmick with the robot is that you can roll a bunch of dice, but if you overheat, then you lose all the dice that you've rolled. But I'm gonna say something that's gonna make me sound like a complete fucking idiot right now, but I swear to God, like, the first like couple hours I was playing with the robot never crossed my mind I was like, oh wait, I could just start using the dice up to a certain point, and then I could just roll like I don't give a shit if I overheat because I've already used all the important dice like straight up at the beginning. Before I was like, oh, I'm just gonna let it ride, like fuck it.
Meanwhile, I'm overheating.
It's like I'm doing everything or nothing right now.
Oh my god, yeah, no, every time I overheat with the robot, because there's nothing in that game worse than just skipping a turn altogether. Like, you skip a turn and you're just so screwed.
Yeah. And
with the robot, he has this meter, and you want to get as close to the top of the meter as possible, because then you get something called jackpot, and you get bonuses.
You get like an amazing ability.
Yeah, but like if you go over, then you're screwed. So
it really is. It's just the game playing on your same issue with Psyvariar, which is like you just get greedy. You want to graze too many bullets, and then
yeah, exactly.
Like Icarus, you fly too close to the sun.
Anyhow, I gotta DM Christina and see if she had the same issue that I did, and just be like, "Wait, no, it's not terrible. we just misread this rule." Right. And then once you read that rule correctly, then you can build then you can have a great build. Like that jester build I built once I figured it out. Like once I figured out the actual rule, that jester build was like, oh my god, that was sweet. I just rolled right through the game, freezing dice, shocking opponents. Oh.
Nice.
It's really, I really enjoy the way that they handle the UI, because it's like it sounds so stupid, like, oh, that sounds so obvious, but like having just the actual square, the dice shape there, and the short succinct descriptions and everything, and color coding each of the tiles to, a status effect one is this color, the reroll is the special ability is this color, and everything, like all that stuff adds up, and it just looks like something you could just jump in and play like right now. Like it wouldn't take that much time to get to get the basics down. It wouldn't take that much time.
Yeah, it feels like a nice board game
impressive.
Too. It's like, oh,
it's impressive, man.
Yeah, no, I play it on my break, and it's like perfect break length, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, the color coding, that kind of thing, the ease of learning, Mike, is you play it twice. You play it once with the warrior, and then that just kind of gets you the basics of attack, defense, and dice manipulation. And then the next character you unlock is the thief, and then the thief shows you all the status effects, and then you're off to the races. Like once you understand the basics and the status effects, then you're good to go.
How do I do damage? How do I not take damage? How do I and then from there, how do I limit what the opponent can do?
Yeah. Which is my favorite part. Like, really, I just love.
Yeah.
I love it when the opponent skips turns. That's like my favorite thing. Oh my god,
so satisfying.
All right. Well, Paul, thanks for letting us in on what you've been playing. I think we'll take a break here, and then we'll come back with more. And we're back. Arnie, you're up next. What have you been playing?
Shock.
Shock.
You are shock. Arnie does not see this coming.
No. What do I? No, I've been consumed by one game. It was funny because when I got the Switch, I was like, oh, this is perfect, because usually what I like to do, my personal routine that I'm sure nobody else does, is I like to play one console game and one handheld game. Like that's
I've never heard of this.
And I bounce between the two of them. I know. Listen, I have spent years in the lab fucking streamlining. I'm like calculating out, like I'm doing a Goodwill Hunting type math equation problem.
Yeah.
Like by the time I die, how many games can I play?
Yeah.
And so this is my solution.
Ruined you?
No, so what happened was I was like, oh, you know what would go great with a fucking RPG like Trinity Souls of Zeal is another fucking RPG like Xenoblade Chronicles.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I gotta have work-life balance, so I gotta play two 70+ hour RPGs at the same time.
Work-life balance and Xenoblade Chronicles go together at all.
No, they don't.
But so basically, I started playing Xenoblade, and I was playing it with Trinity, and then eventually I was like, I just need to play one of these, because if not, it's gonna melt my brain having to like jump between both like types. I'm gonna be like waiting for my turn in Xenoblade Chronicles while somebody's busting my face wide open. And so that's the one I decided to play. Brought to me by the beautiful people at Monolith Soft, who have the sexiest corporate headquarters I've ever seen. Like, if you go on their Wikipedia, their, like, first picture is, like, their corporate building, and it is. There's some lines, there's some fucking, like, there's some real architecture happening here.
Nice.
Really?
Yes.
Didn't know that. That's cool. I'm gonna check that out.
Yeah, but I think it, like, works with their name, because you literally see Monolith Software, and then this, like, monolith-ass looking building. Like, they look like the spaceship from Arrival.
This building is the most rectangle building I've ever seen in my life.
Is it not a good-looking building, though? Like, would you not be proud to go to work there?
You oversold it. I'm sorry, dude. You oversold it. Like that's the problem.
I really like it. I mean, it's not Nakatomi Plaza or anything, but it's nice.
You know what? Actually, the more I stare at it on our audio only podcast, the more I'm actually appreciating it, because it looks like fingers that are like steepled together. You know, they fit perfectly.
What the fuck? I gotta look at this now.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at here.
It's the building equivalent of Shinji's dad, just like sitting.
Yeah,
there you go.
But the windows and it all fits together perfectly, and I see now what they're trying to do. I appreciate it. I take it back, Arnie. You did not oversell it. This is a lovely building. You look
at the picture of the building, and it's like, play another 100-hour RPG, and you're like, again, do it now.
Get it.
I mean, I don't know, man. Maybe I gotta work. Oh, you know what this is? I don't know, man. I look at architecture and I'm like, I could do that. I could do that.
This just looks like
it just looks like a building. I could do that.
Stop it. We were talking before the show about Picasso, and basically I called him a fraud. Because if I can do that art, then I'm sorry.
But you can't.
It's not. I can totally do it. I can.
No,
you
can't.
Yeah, I can.
Dude, you would never say that to Picasso's face, so that guy would kick your ass.
I would be so happy to. He's a funny fellow, unless I'm mistaken. So yeah, no, I'd be more than happy to.
He'd make you look like one of his paintings.
I think you could throw hands, man. I'd be pretty.
A drunken Spaniard, like a tiny drunken Spaniard man, just wailing on you.
He starts grabbing all these shapes and throwing them at me.
Sorry, Kelly. I just realized we're supposed to be talking about Xenoblade. Sorry, Kelly. Arnie,
yes.
go.
80
Xenoblade.
hours in. Tell us
I know.
what
Brought to
you've been
me by
doing.
Monolith Soft. Honestly, I was looking at I was like, oh, let me look at what games they've made, and just honestly, one of the tightest releases, one of the tightest lists of video game releases I've ever seen. Like, just bangers.
Pretty solid.
Super
Pretty
Robot
solid.
Tyson OG Saga Endless Frontier, banger.
Yeah.
Project X Zone, banger.
Oh, God.
Project X Zone 2, not
I
a
disagree.
banger, but it's alright, I guess.
All right, you know.
Whoa.
You gotta,
I've played,
you know.
I've played Project X Zone. Why
you
is
played it
Project X Zone
completely?
2?
Have you played
No.
Project X Zone completely?
No, of
You didn't
course
finish
not.
it?
It goes on
little bit
about 30
repetitive.
hours too long.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
the
yeah,
problem.
So
I got
Project
that
X Zone
impression.
2 was like, let's take all the lessons we've learned from that and
just
just
throw 'em out
make
the
the
window.
same length of game again.
Yes.
Oh, that's too bad. Yeah, I'm probably never gonna. Actually, no, that's a lie. I'm probably gonna play part 2
Yeah.
until I get Segata Sanshiro.
Yes,
and then
that is the saving grace of 2 is that they definitely made some like upgrades to the roster. They added like
Yeah.
Kiryu and Majima and Segata Sanshiro and you
Yeah.
know, they really went all out on that one.
Love you guys.
anyhow,
But yeah, so Xenoblade Chronicles, a nemesis of a game, I would say, maybe close to my white whale for a long time. Like I remember getting the game on the Wii, never playing it, losing it. Like I have the case, but I've never found the disc again.
dude.
So I don't know where it is. Yep.
What a game to lose.
I know. Well, you know.
Is it
Did you
stuck
ever
in a
sell a
console
Wii?
somewhere?
No, this is going to be one of those things where I'm going to be like 73. I'm still going to have all this bullshit behind me. I'll be like, you know what? I will really want to play Tom and Jerry War of the Whiskers today. And just open it, and it's going to be right there.
Yes.
And I'm going to be like,
I can't
and I'm going to
wait.
be fucking pissed at that point because it's going to be like, oh, it's worth like $13 now.
Oh, dude, that happened to me like a few months ago. I opened up a copy of Final Fantasy VIII
Oh.
on the PS1, and I opened it up, and there's like a Lego game instead of disc 1.
So
And I'm
good.
looking at it, and I am completely fucking baffled. Completely
Yeah.
baffled. Where did this game even come from? Like, did I buy this online and somebody put in the wrong game and I just never checked? Like, that's that. But that's the thing, though. I never bought that game online. I've had it forever, like since I moved, right? So,
Yeah.
Lego game.
Like in any other context, I feel like that would qualify as hitting rock bottom, right? Like that's when you know you have a problem.
Right.
And for me, it's just like, wow, this is like the 17th time this has happened to me. Like it's crazy.
I'm still thinking about like War of the Whiskers and like the perfect cherry. The perfect cherry for that would be that War of the Whiskers isn't in it. And that's now worth thousands of dollars.
That's right.
And
I'm
Dark's
just
like,
Oh,
shit,
God.
you know?
God. But yeah, so when I got my Wii, immediately afterwards, I think on like Black Friday or for Christmas, Switch games went down to like $26. And Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition was one of them. So I found it
Nice.
immediately and bought it. Because I was like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm never going to have this chance ever again.
Yeah, no, probably not.
And
Yeah,
so
they'll probably,
I was like, you know,
take that one out of
unfortunately not the new 3DS version I wanted to play. Like not the masterpiece.
Right.
But it was good enough, I guess. And yeah, I started playing it, and I was like, I guess I'm gonna finish this game because it's what I liked about it. What I'll say is I'm not an action RPG guy. Like that is not my bag. Like I'm not. You know, I don't like. I've
I'm with
played
you.
Tales of the Abyss. I thought that was good, so that should tell you what you need to know about me and like
Oh
action
my God,
RPGs.
Kelly's face, dude. Her respect level just
He
dropped like
grew,
20
Kelly.
points.
Okay, he was
Tales
bad,
of the
but then
Abyss.
he
Me and
grew.
Ray have had many conversations about Tales of the Abyss. So
Luc Fonfabre or whatever his name was.
No spoilers. I haven't played it yet. No spoilers, but I do love the dialogue that happens about Abyss, man. Like there's people who love it, there's people who hate it. It's really interesting.
yeah.
But yeah, so I'm a turn-based guy. I want to look at menus. I want to be able to get up and like get a snack while I'm fighting, you know, God or whatever.
Yeah,
And I can't do that with an action RPG. And Xenoblade Chronicles won't even do me the courtesy of letting me pause in battle. Like I have to put my Switch in sleep mode like a plebe in order to do anything.
But at least you can.
Yes.
Like, and at least you thought of it.
Yeah, on
Did
the
you hear
Wii,
about,
I don't know. I guess you'd have to like take the batteries out of your Wiimote to pause the game if you're fighting.
Oh yeah,
I don't even know.
Did you hear about? And I know, I'm sorry. This is sports adjacent.
Okay.
But Arnie, did you hear about Jared Allen of the Cavaliers when he
No.
got the phone call saying that they were putting him in the All-Star game?
Oh, please tell me it was like playing some RTS or something.
He was playing the new Pokemon, and when they called him, he couldn't pause. So he was like, yeah, okay, great, thank you. Okay, great, yeah, thanks, bye.
God,
Wow.
finally. Fucking athletes, man. They're just like us, you know? I've always said that. That is honestly the most I think I've ever related to a multimillionaire in my life.
Probably, yeah.
Just like getting the most important opportunity of your life, and you're like, listen, I don't have time right now. Like, I'm trying to catch this Voltorb, like.
So sorry, I'm gonna ask something now,
Sure.
which is sort of semi-related, but you guys both don't like kind of more active JRPGs.
Yeah.
Kelly, I mean, how do you feel about it, Kelly? Are you more into action RPGs now? Are you more into turn-based? Like,
Good
do you have
mix
a
of
preference
both.
or not?
Good mix of both.
Oh, okay.
So.
Because you guys both don't like them, but we all have said so many times about how we don't want a game that wastes our time, and we like a game that's kind of shorter. It just, I don't know. It seems like there's a bit of a disconnect there. I'm just kind of curious.
Well, Xenoblade Chronicles is not short. I can tell you that.
Yeah. Not that there's an immediate connection between like active battle versus like game length, but I just feel like the immediacy of like, because what I'm trying to say is that like I've kind of bounced off a lot of turn-based stuff now. Like I'm not as into it. I'd want a game where I'm like, look, if I'm gonna take forever, at least I'm pressing buttons. Like at least I'm doing something.
Well,
Okay,
this is,
I misunderstood, first of all, because when Arnie said action RPG, I thought of like the overhead Zelda mold, which I'm not, where you're moving a character around swinging a sword. Sorry, that's my mistake. Yeah. Mike, what you're saying, where you're like active in an RPG where you're still selecting, stuff to do. That I like. My apologies. I misread.
Well, what I mean, like for like Tales, for example, where it's like it's like a character action game where I'm hacking and slashing and doing all this shit in combat, but then out of combat, I'm just kind of walking around doing my thing. Yeah, like that's sort of what
I guess for me, the disconnect is that, like, so on the one end of the spectrum, I have the traditional turn-based RPG, right? Where I can take all the time in the world, I can plan my shit out, like I go through menus, I press buttons, do all that. And on the opposite end of the spectrum is like a true ass hack and slash, like Devil May Cry or some shit, where I control every single move that my character does.
Right.
And then right in the middle are action RPGs, where like I don't get the satisfaction of like doing all the cool moves whenever the fuck I want. It's like I press this button, I watch an animation of a thing, and then I have to watch a cooldown so I can press the next button. You know what I mean? Like I think that's the disconnect for me, where it's like you're not giving me enough control that I can like just do cool ass shit. You're making me watch all these like animations, but you're also taking away like the precious time I have to strategize what button I'm going to press.
I get it. I see.
So you don't like the pressure of like having to make decisions in a timely manner?
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
That carries on through gaming, through life. Through,
sorry, I thought you were fucking with it
through
there.
podcasting.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I can understand why you'd think that. Yeah, that's the default setting.
But you know, I as I will say to all the listeners when they listen to this podcast, do as I say, not as I do, because I say a lot of smart shit and I do a lot of dumb shit, as is obviously evidenced by this podcast.
So I know Xenoblade Chronicles can be an extremely long game. Have you actually beaten it in those 80 hours?
I did. I finished it, I want to say like 3 or 4 days ago. 71 hours and 40 minutes. Probably like 3 of those hours are me like looking up to watch whatever YouTube documentary I was watching at the time and like leaving my characters idle. You know, whatever NFT documentary I was watching at the time as I try to break into the market. But yeah, no, it was, I gotta say, like, everybody talks about this game highly, and I've this is a story as tale as old as time for me, where it's like, you know, I gotta put the expectations here, because if I put them where everybody else is telling me to put them, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna be like, yeah, just that was fine or whatever. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
It didn't change my life.
Exactly.
So I was like, all right, let me finally get into this so I can join the conversation. And I want to just start off by saying that the story in this game, while enjoyable, really makes me yearn for the days of like, I like this story because it's grand in scale, but not afraid to be completely stupid. Like, you start the game and it's like, in the beginning, there were 2 gods. One of them had living people. They were the Bionis. One of them had mechanical people. They were the Mechonis. And I was like, oh, thank fucking Christ. Like, finally a story I can wrap my head around.
So cool.
And then, and then it was like, and then the big god stabbed the other giant god in the gut with a sword. And it looked dope. And I was like, oh, hell yeah.
I'm still trying to figure out how the world actually works, because it just seems...
I know.
They're on the back of... It just... I'm trying to picture where they are on this thing, and it just doesn't make sense to me.
How does gravity work? How do you get from, like, the thigh to the shoulder? You know what I mean? Like, how does that fucking work? Like...
This is the video game equivalent of like, yo man, what if like the Earth was just being carried by a giant sea turtle through space or something?
Monolith Soft were smoking some crazy shit, man. Like they were like, oh, yo dude, they're like walking on giant titans, bro. It's like,
so good. Like, but that's the thing about it. Like, immediately I was like, oh, I'm charmed. Like, I'm charmed. Yeah. And then the game does, like, small things to keep me engaged. One, and I'm sure this is going to be an entire ass discussion, but I kept the game on mute for a little bit in the beginning. And, like, I want to say, like, a couple hours in, I put the volume up to, like, just watch some cutscenes and whatnot. I was immediately like, what the fuck is this? The most British-ass voice acting I've ever seen.
It's right time.
That's right. And I remember the story. Wasn't it something like they, like, part of the budget didn't allow for them to, like, get, like, good voice acting or something? I can't remember what the deal was with that. But there's a reason why they're British, isn't there?
They weren't even going to bring it over.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
This is, what's it called? Sorry, Kelly. What's it called? I always forget.
Operation Rainfall?
Yes. Rainfall. Yeah, Rainfall.
But which we still don't know exactly how much they did, if it's true that they brought the games over because of Operation Rainfall, but it makes a good story, no matter what.
It sure does.
It's funny because I was going to ask you about this, Arnie, like what you thought, but it looks like if you played most of it on mute, maybe you don't know or don't care.
I heard enough that I was like...
Baffling decision.
I was like, I heard enough that I was like, I don't need to listen to every single line of dialogue like this, but you bet your ass, like the most dramatic ones, I was like, let's turn this motherfucker all the way up. So
the thing is Last Story, I haven't played Pandora's Tower. Yeah. Which the three Rainfall games, Pandora's Tower, Last Story, and
Xenoblade.
And Xenoblade. And Last Story I have played through, and that has the same UK voice actors, and there is no like Japanese dub.
Yes.
In the North American release for a Last Story. I think there is one on the Wii version of Xenoblade, but I'm not sure. But I remember like Last Story, it was a banger, man. Yeah. They nailed it.
Yeah.
Like
it was good.
I felt like they actually really nailed it. Like I'm a big subs over dubs guy, but even Last Story I was like, they fucking nailed this, dude. Like it works. And for Xenoblade on Wii, I was like, it's good. Like it's a good dub, you know. Like
it's not terrible. It's just so jarring to me. Like I was like,
oh, for sure,
these characters do not match these voices at all.
I was gonna ask, like if anybody played it in Japanese versus playing it with dubs, like if they preferred one or the other or whatever.
I've only played the dub, so
yeah.
Oh, okay.
I've only played the dub, and especially Ricky. My boy Ricky, he has the best voice.
I guess.
It's like, Ricky, he's coming!
Oh, no.
To get you!
Well, you just talked me out of it. You just talked me out of it. You just talked me out of the dub, man. Thanks.
No, I've never been a fan of the adorable mascot costume.
Yeah.
No,
the only one who got it right was Mr. Drippy, because he was like an old Welsh man.
First one I thought of, Mr. Drippy.
That's right.
Absolutely. He's called Mr. Drippy.
Mr. Drippy.
Dude, Mr. Drippy is the goat.
That's right.
The mascot goat, and it's not even close.
Yeah.
That's fair. So quality of life features, right, Arnie?
They were, I mean, I only played like an hour or two on the Wii, and I was like, I can't fucking do this. Like, I got distracted with other things, but even before that, I was like, this is a lot. Like, doing this for like 80 to 100 hours is not the move. But the Switch really did a great job, I thought, at like really streamlining a lot of the shit, especially the fucking side quest system. Because Kelly warned me about this, and I promptly ignored her warning. She was like, don't do that many side quests because they never end. And they sure don't. In the first area, it's like, oh, there's like 3 quests here, and I do them. And then it's like, oh, there's 2 more quests here. Oh, and I do them. And it's like, oh, there's another quest here. And I do them. And I'm like, it's been like 5 hours. I'm still in the first area. Like, I need to leave.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I think this was changed from the Wii. I think in the Wii version, when you did a quest, you had to like go to the person and be like, hey, I've brought you your 7 rat tails or whatever. And
at certain times of the day too, if you weren't there when the NPC was.
Yes.
Oh, that sounds so much worse now.
Yes.
So on the Switch version, it's a mix. Some of them you do have to report back. A lot of them you do them like in the field, and it's like quest complete, and you just get all your shit. And they've also added, I'm assuming this was not in the Wii version based on how Kelly is disgustedly talking about this. There is a change time function where you can just change the time to whatever you want.
I think there was, but I don't know, because I never went back to the quest to see, oh, this person is available from this time to this time, so I better change the time back and forth and back and forth. That was just too much for me. It was just like, no, we're going to move on.
The only other thing, like I think my biggest gripe with the game is something that's not even like required to beat it, so it's not even like a major issue. But overall, it really just feels like they put too much shit in this game. Like they try to like overcomplicate the systems for no reason. And I'm specifically talking about the fucking affinity chart. Oh. The affinity chart is the stupidest fucking thing because as far as I know, and I mean, obviously, like, I'm sure there's, like, real benefits to it, but basically what it's trying to get you to do is to, like, change out your characters, because the more quests and, like, battles you do with characters, the, like, stronger their bonds get and, like, their relationships get better. But, like, the most impactful effect of this, or I think the reason they're like, you should do this because here's your reward, is that like you get to go around the world and look at like side cutscenes of them just like having moments together.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Where then you get fucking quizzed about shit that you don't know. Like, it'll be like, oh, do you remember that one time? And then it'll be like that we held hands, or that I put a tarantula in your mouth. And it's like, you gotta pick, you don't know which one it is, and one of them is correct.
I love it.
Wait a minute. So does that actually happen? Like, is the answer at some point during the game? And you were just watching an NFT documentary and you didn't see it? Or
no. It's like, oh, do you remember when we were children, like outside the scope of the story, and like you put a caterpillar in my shoe? And it's like, I guess, like, no, and then if you answer incorrectly, they're like, what the fuck, are you stupid? Like, do you not love me?
So do you get like, do you get combat bonuses for the affinity system?
As far as I know, it just like improves your like affinity with people. Like the tangible bonus
Christ,
is you can get like affinity. You can get affinity with places by doing quests in them, and that helps you when you want to trade with people, because that's like a thing you can do. You can trade with random NPCs, and they'll give you like better, sort of. I'll trade you this for something shittier, like if I like you.
Yeah.
So there's that.
And like
I barely did any of that.
It's not just an affinity with your party. It's like random NPCs and everything else. It's just a huge chart.
Yeah. There's the affinity. There's the gem crafting system, which I did not use. I used it once.
How much did you build the town?
Barely.
It was funny at the end for me too, because they're in the town that you're supposed to have built the whole game,
and
they're just sitting in nothing because I love it.
I think I did the first one because I just happened to have the items on hand to do it, and then after that, it's like you have to find all these things. And the thing about it is that I think this is also a quality of life improvement, is they let you track specific quests. So like if I have a quest and I track it, it like puts up all these blue exclamation points where it's like, this is all the shit you need to get to do it. I'm like, oh, that's
Yeah.
cool. But with the Colony 6 ones, you can't track it. So it's like, I need you to find me a gelatinous gloop. And it's like, I hope you know what monster, like, has that. And it's like, oh, is it the gelatinous gloop monster? No, it's the wolf from, like, the first area. And it's like, oh, cool. I guess that's awesome. And it's like, I need like 7 of them, and they're like a random drop. And I'm like, oh, great. And I'm definitely not doing this.
Yeah.
Oh, I was on board until you said that.
Yeah, because each enemy has there's like 3 levels of drop you can get, and they're demonstrated by the chest the monster drops. If they drop like a shitty wood chest, that's like the common drop. If they drop like a medium silver chest, that's like, you know, kind of special, whatever. And if they drop like a giant gold chest, that's like the rare drop.
Yeah. Nah, man. I mean, it depends on the rarity, but like, I find, for example, Trails of Cold Steel does it very well, where the rare drops aren't really that rare.
Yeah.
Like you can get everything you need pretty quick.
Yeah.
It doesn't kill you. But anything where it's like 1 out of 10, even 1 out of 5, I have no time. I have no time for that kind of stuff.
So
that's too bad.
Yeah, but that's what I'm talking about. Like, there's this whole affinity system, there's a gem crafting system, there's a town building system. Like, there's so many fucking systems.
I love that.
You can just ignore. Like, you can completely ignore them and still beat the game. So I guess it's good in the sense that, like, it's there to appease sickos like you, Paul. But, like, for the rest of us, we could just move on with our lives.
Yeah. I can't wait to ignore every single one of those things. It's going to be awesome.
I haven't talked about the best feature.
Go.
The best feature, for me personally, is that there is no, as far as I can tell, there is no consistency in terms of, like, armor. Like, there's no consistency in, like, all these pieces of armor that are of the same set. You should wear all of them, and it'll be much better than wearing, like, random pieces of armor. And the game, like, shows your armor on your sprites, and it shows those sprites in cutscene. So half the time, my characters are just looking like a fucking menagerie of like, clothes. Like, here's my plate armor with, like, my board shorts and, like, my thigh-high boots that I'm wearing now for no reason.
You did know that there was a costume area where
I did, and I actively did not use it.
That was added for the Switch version, so...
Yeah, because you can change the appearance of the armor to look like whatever you want if you want to look fucking cool in your cutscenes or whatever.
That's so funny.
There's even a whole cutscene theater where you can watch previous cutscenes, but you can change, like, the time of day, the weather, like, all sorts of stuff.
That's kind of cool.
That is equally cool and useless.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
But again, they fucking love just adding systems to things. They're like, oh yeah, let's just do this other thing. Like, what? A schedule? Who gives a shit? Like... We're making this game for 10 years anyway. Nobody cares. It's gonna make like $300,000 and we'll be in business for 100 years.
So in summary, 10 out of 10 would play again?
Would not play again because it's so fucking long, but an excellent game. An excellent game, like a story. I do want to play the sequels, except they cost like $1 million. You know, so thankfully our Region Free Gamers NFTs will cover the cost of that soon.
Yes. Good point. I can't wait to release those to a hungry public who doesn't want to get ripped off at all.
No, not at all.
But yeah, no, overall, like, if you like JRPGs, like, this one is... I'll say this about the combat too, it's dumb enough that I could do it. Like, there's definitely, like, you can chain attacks together and, like, work with your teammates who are all AI controlled, which also makes me, like, extremely anxious. But they're not stupid. They're smart enough. That's what I'll say. Sometimes they do stupid things, but, like, it never is enough to, like, completely kill me. But the game definitely is, like, the game is structured in such a way where, like, if you are, I think it's 4 to 5 levels lower than the thing you're fighting, you can't hit it. Like, it's just like miss. Like, don't even try. Like, I don't want you to be good at this game. Like, I want you to grind up to, like, within 3 levels of this thing, and then you can kill it.
See, this is interesting to me because I remember someone else on our podcast, I'm not naming names, but she had a problem with Vagrant Story for a similar reason, where she just couldn't hit a character unless there was some grinding. Yet Xenoblade Chronicles escapes critique.
Well, with Xenoblade Chronicles, it was pretty easy to level up, where those fucking weapons in that goddamn game can just go die in a fire.
Yeah. Oh, I do want to ask you one thing, Kelly, before I wrap up here, because I'm curious. Did you, were you regularly mixing people in and out of your party, or did you pick a party and, that was your party the whole way through?
I pretty much had one party. Once I got 7, then that person was in my party, and then it was and I always controlled your main character the entire game.
They let you switch out the main character. Oh, yeah. One more gripe. There's a whole section of the game where the only person that can hurt a specific type of enemy is the main character, because they have a special weapon, and the only way you can get your party members to hurt them is with a special ability that only the main character has. But the game somehow still lets you switch out your main character for other party members, I guess, if you just want to die. There's a substantial chunk of the game that's you just have to have the main character in your party. So I hope you like him.
Sometimes hard lessons have to be learned, Arnie.
That's right. But yeah, that's Xenoblade.
That is Xenoblade. All right, I think we will take a break here, and then we'll come back with more What Have We Been Playing? And we're back. Mike, tell me, what have you been playing?
Woohoo! So inverse to Arnie, I think I've been playing the games I've been playing lately, mostly retro stuff, and all completable within 20-30 minutes. So I'm a lot more kind of in that camp, which has been kind of fun. The first one I want to talk about is a game called Image Striker, which is a 2D shmup that I played on Steam, and it's actually free.
Ooh.
So
for real?
Yeah, it's free.
Right.
And now,
if you hear some clicking,
yeah. So now any shmup fans are probably gonna start kind of salivating if they're not already. Not because it's Steam and it's free, and it's by Terrarin Games. Okay, so Terrarin are now making a name for themselves because they're the ones who came out with their latest game that just came out is called Moon Dancer. That just came out. Before that, they made a game called Raging Blasters, and that's kind of the one that put them on a map a little bit. Also, shout out to Shmup Junkie, who definitely is the reason why I know who these people are and why and how I know what this game is. And he's definitely gone on record as really enjoying Raging Blasters and touting it. And I think on his Discord they even had a caravan mode competition that went really well. And so Image Striker, I think is he also did Terrarin. I think it's just a one guy team, or it's pretty small. And before that was Missile Dancer, and then a game called Gemini Arms. They're all kind of shmuppy. I think Gemini Arms is a little bit different from the standard vertical shmup. The rest are just kind of vertical
You can really
shmups.
name a shmup anything you want, huh?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's shmups called Blue Desire.
Hell
it's what the fuck is what? Why? It has nothing to do with anything, and you're all right, whatever. But Image Striker, it looks like Image Striker is the first thing that he did, and it's free. And it's essentially you can beat the game in 10-15 minutes. There's six short stages, and there's no really there's no kind of grazing system or anything like that. It's a pretty simple kind of weapon system where there's attachments that come and you basically pick them up and get different types of shots and stuff like that, similar to Compile and everything.
Okay.
But what's interesting about the game, the gimmick with the game, and again, not something that, other games have done this, but there's 2 rotating options that are around you. And for those who don't play shmups, options are basically just little balls, usually spheres, that shoot bullets and block bullets.
Yeah, I call them
and
mini-me's.
Basically, yeah, and similar to Gley Lancer and Scat, aka Final Mission, you can press a button that kind of impacts their AI. So you can press a button so like every time you press a button, the mode changes. Like, it fires forward, it fires sideways, it fires backwards, and that kind of thing. So it's got, those are basically the two mechanics. And that's kind of it. The rest of it is just this solid, fun, kind of like indie, I don't want to say low budget, but like it's really sort of simple visually. That's kind of Tararin's trademark, is that he has this super clean kind of visual style that's like really old school, very like, you know, again, all of this is going to sound like backhanded compliments, but I don't mean it that way, because it looks great. It's all very geometrical. It's all very symmetrical. But the thing is like that can really easily go wrong. But in his games, it can really easily look really boring and lame. But in his games, I don't know, man. Sorry, I should say their games, because I don't know. So like in their games, I don't know, man. Like there's just something amazing about how he puts it together. It just kind of works and looks really cool and aesthetically pleasing. The music is really solid. And in this game, like it's just fun. And it's the first time that I've played through a shmup. I usually play through shmups to just kind of beat them. I'm not really a big score junkie unless I get to the point where it's like I'm trying to 1cc and I really need an extend or something. But but in this game, in these games, I just found myself playing it again and again, like especially in the caravan mode, because it's just so much fun to blow things up. Again, like I don't know what the guy does. I don't know what kind of crack he puts in the game, but like there's just something, even with the simple kind of like simplistic kind of visuals, it's just really addictive. The feedback is great, and it's just really fun, and it's like short, and it just you know feels good to play. And it's funny because I know what I'm saying, it could kind of be interchangeable with some of his other games, but again, Image Striker, absolutely free. You can play it like right now, and it's just kind of a fun, solid game. Almost treat it like a demo for his other stuff.
I mean, finish listening to the podcast first, but
yes, please.
No.
Yes, please. What I love is speaking of when we were talking about Psyvariar and Arnie brought up Anime Girls, what I kind of love about Tararin's last two games is that both of them in the Steam page and also like in other pages, front and center, he has this like really great aesthetic old school anime girl wearing the helmet, you know, and cool. You know, looking awesome like that. And it's just, it sounds silly, but like it really does add this eye-catching factor to it, like this whether it's a nostalgic element or whatever, like it makes you kind of like, oh yeah, this is just gonna be like playing those old games. And
it points to an era, because like that particular style, that's like late 80s, early 90s. Yeah. And that's kind of the heyday of the shmup, right? Like it all fits together like a puzzle. Yeah.
It's amazing to me. Again, it's just like with the kind of with the sort of more simple visuals, it still has a lot of style. You can still tell, like I'm at the point now, it's like you can tell it's one of their games, you know, and like that's kind of amazing to me that when they can do it with something like that, you always know. And now whenever you see something, you're like, oh snap. So Image Striker, I honestly, like I feel kind of weird because I don't have too much to say about it, like because there isn't that much to say in that sense. Like it's just a really straightforward, fun sci-fi shmup, you know, vertically scrolling shmup. It's just really fun.
Nothing wrong with that.
So my question that I have for every shmup, is it classic or is it bullet hell?
It's definitely more classic than it is bullet hell. But again, like this is coming from me, and I'm still pretty new to shmups. Like I'm still just kind of, you know, I've definitely gotten a taste of the crack pipe thanks to Shmup Junkie. Thanks, no thanks. But I still feel like I'm still very much kind of a newbie at the genre. But to me,
you'd know bullet hell if you saw it.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to tell myself. It's like in my humble opinion, it's definitely not a bullet hell. It's much more of a classic one. It's a lot more about enemy placement and patterns, especially the caravan mode. Like it's a lot more of be really aggressive, know where they're coming ahead of time to like max out your score and max out your, you know, your point potential, and, you know, not not just like trying to take out enemies as quickly as possible kind of thing. There's for Image Striker specifically, there's much less an emphasis on like dodging bullets and building up things like that. I think in Raging Blasters I'm not sure about Moon Dancer, but I know in Missile Dancer, and that's the other one, and Raging Blasters, I think there's more of a lock-on element similar to the layer mission / Ray series and stuff happening in that. But anyway, it's just really cool, man. Like to me, and all the games, I think even now that I'm looking, looks like Raging Blasters has a demo, Moon Dancer has a demo on Steam. Like, just check them out and like play a couple rounds. Man. They're just fun, man. Like it's just good stuff. The only one I don't know too much about is Gemini Arms, which I think it just says it's a side-scrolling 2D shoot 'em up. So maybe that was his try at a Hori. So I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, Image Striker.
Interesting. Nice. I mean, it's free. Like obviously I have to check it out.
Once you said it was free, I stopped listening.
Time to play. Yes.
It's such a shame. I mean, it's not really a shame in the grand scheme of things, but it's such a shame that there are so many games to play. Yeah. Because like even with shmups, I have like a bit of a backlog. Like Chris from Retro Hangover, he got me one for Christmas that was Tech Beat Heart. Tech Beat Heart, that's what it's called. And I have yet to play that one. And that was, that was like 2 months ago that he got that. And I gotta play that one. And now Image Striker's free. It's like, holy shit, man.
Does it feel different, so Paul? Games. Like casting your mind back to a time where like, there's definitely a limit to how many games were out there, but you were like, I mean, I can't afford them. So theoretically they're infinite. To now being like, I can't afford a lot of stuff and there's just infinite games for real now.
There's infinite games at eminently affordable price points is really kind of what the quote unquote issue is. Yeah. It's not an issue, of course, but like, man, the fact that you can play an infinite amount of games for under $2 each is bonkers. Like, I don't think Tech Beat Heart was more than $5. Vampire Survivors is a game that people are talking about now. Yeah, and I have to play that one, and that one's like $3. It's dumb. Yeah. Like it's absolutely dumb.
I agree. That's why I'm glad that Nintendo is like destroying the 3DS eShop, so I don't have to worry about playing those games.
Yeah, true. We can always thank them.
They're doing me a favor personally.
Yeah.
I called up Miyamoto and I was like, "Listen, dog, like it's just too much shit on here. Like I don't have time."
I got you, Arnie. Don't worry.
Took a drag of 17 cigarettes at once. I was like, it's okay, I'll figure it out.
Mike, what else have you been playing?
Oh, so the other game, another short kind of arcade shooter shmup is Forgotten Worlds on the Sega Genesis Mega Drive. Oh man, okay.
I love that one eschewed the let's have two sexy anime chicks on this for like let's have two very handsome buff armored men on it.
Oh, there we go.
Super
and they're
buff.
Poses are just
this one's for the ladies. Forgotten Worlds.
It's some JoJo shit. It's some JoJo. It's like Contra meets JoJo. It's pretty amazing. I mean, so Forgotten Worlds is a game that like I didn't know. I remember seeing in the arcades a ton when I was a kid. I didn't play too much in the arcades, and it's funny, man, because Forgotten Worlds, like I kind of bought it just because I was like, oh yeah, like this looks kind of cool, and it's loose and it's cheap and it's a shmup, so I'll check it out. Yeah. And now that I've beaten it on Genesis and I've kind of done a little, more research, aka just kind of like looked up a couple things on Wikipedia or Google, like this game, I'm kind of in love with this game now. I kind of, it's kind of fucking awesome. So basically, like, I'll start by saying, so essentially, side-scrolling shooter made by Capcom. It was released in the arcades in 1988. There were a bunch of home ports that came out a little bit later. And essentially, it's a side-scrolling shmup. You play as
one of two ridiculously buff men.
You play as one of two ridiculously buff men and who have a gun and a drone. And essentially, how it worked, I'm gonna be honest here. I don't exactly know how it worked in the arcade. I'm assuming it was like Robotron, where it was a joystick that you turned around to turn the drone in 360 degrees to shoot all around you. But maybe it wasn't. On the Sega Genesis, obviously you can't do that. So on the Sega Genesis, how they handle it is the A and C buttons rotate it either clockwise or counterclockwise, and the B button fires.
Yeah,
and
that's a nightmare.
you move around your character. And it sounds weird, and it is kind of weird at first, but you'd be surprised how quickly you kind of get used to it.
It's not that bad.
It's
that
actually
sounds
not
like
that
a game
bad.
that could have benefited from a couple shoulder buttons, I'm just saying.
Well, okay, so you mentioned shoulder buttons. So this is an interesting thing. This is one of the only games I know that doesn't work with the 6-button controller.
At all?
So, no. So it does. But the thing is it's one of the only games where you have to hold down. There's a mode shoulder button on the 6-button controller, and it's one of the only games where you actually have to use it.
Wow.
You have to hold it down.
Okay.
You have to hold it down as you turn on the game, because if you don't, the game, you can start the game and then it immediately says just game over. So when I only have 6-button controllers, because frankly
Sure,
the three buttons fucking suck.
Yeah.
Whereas the 6-button controllers are arguably some of the best controllers ever made. On the Sega Genesis, they're fucking. The D-pad is just, oh god, it's perfect. And
So good.
so anyway, I only have the 6-button. So when I first got it loose, I was like, fuck, it doesn't work. It doesn't fucking work. Like, what the fuck? Oh, my game's busted. And then I finally clued in and was like, oh wait, it's a 3-button joint. It's one of the only ones. So it works fine. You just have to hold down the mode button. And essentially, yeah, man, it's just a acid trip of a fucking ride. And you shoot things, you get money by shooting things, then you go to shops and you buy weapons so you can shoot more things to get more money to buy more weapons, and you fight bosses that take up the whole screen and everything. That's it. And I'm gonna get to the best parts soon. I'm trying to get rid of all the chaff first. I'm like, yeah, the game's great. It's kind of the stuff in the game or about the game that really makes me laugh. But I will say, in terms of the arcade, apparently there's 2 levels missing from the arcade in the Genesis version, and also watching the arcade gameplay, it's way harder. The arcade is just absurd. There's so much more happening, especially with the bosses. The bosses have way more patterns, way more attacks, and things like that. On the Genesis, some of the bosses on the Genesis, you actually feel bad for them. You feel bad. They come out. It's like a little sphinx. It's so tiny compared to the arcade. It just kind of limps out. And you're like, oh no, what am I going to do? And then you focus all your fire on the head. It just explodes immediately. You're like, oh, that was tough. I mean, so the levels are difficult, but some of the bosses are just hilarious. You're like, well, that was easy.
And this one you can play co-op on the Genesis, right? It's 2 players.
Yes.
Oh,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So
you can have 2 muscle-bound Adonises floating through space.
So I'm sorry, but I need to talk about this, because I read this when I was doing my research, and it just makes the game for me. It makes me so happy. So the plot so the plot is set in the 29th century. An evil god known as Bios has destroyed most of the earth, turning it into a desolate wasteland known as the Dust World.
That's right.
2 nameless super soldiers are created by the people to defeat Bios and the 8 evil gods who serve him. Okay? So the whole thing with Forgotten Worlds is that it's sci-fi, but it's also kind of it's weird fantasy sci-fi.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of fantasy elements and ancient Egypt and shit. And so, but here's what I want to say about its development. Okay, because this still, I fucking love this so much. So the game took 2 years to develop, with a production budget of $5 million. Okay. The game started off as a regular side-scrolling shooter, but Yoshiki Okamoto wanted a more imaginative game. So during development, he tried to make the game easier to play. As this was the first game, okay, blah, 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 that's fine. But I love it because then it cuts to the end. It goes, the game did not generate enough income upon its release.
Why?
It's honestly, I thought you were about to tell me they had this production budget of $5 million, so the director decided to take every staff member to Egypt so they could look at the Sphinx for themselves.
But it blows my mind because to me, I had always just thought, oh yeah, Forgotten Worlds, 2 buff guys shooting aliens in Egypt, whatever.
Yeah.
But now that I see this, I'm like, oh man, this was like a big deal. Like Capcom were like banking on this bad boy.
Yeah.
And now Forgotten Worlds, like, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of love for Forgotten Worlds out there, but it's not put up there in the pantheon. It's kind of this goofy
I
game.
don't know, man. Like this came out when? The early 90s?
Late 80s even.
Late 80s. Late 80s.
Fuck, dude. I think Capcom was this was like they were fucking blowing cocaine money on games back then. They
Oh my
like,
god!
oh, you want $5 million? There you go. Fuck that.
Speaking of cocaine money, I want to talk about my favorite thing. Maybe my favorite thing in the game are the cutscenes. Okay, in the so in the arcades, fully voiced.
Oh,
in the
hell
arcades
yeah.
with synthesized voice, but on the Genesis, I know, right? I know it's amazing.
Dude, you cannot stop me with paramecium alone.
Exactly, dude. Imagine hearing him say, "You cannot stop me with paramecium alone," and you're like, "Wait, what the fuck?" Like,
What the hell is
he
that?
says that doing. He says that doing a jazz hands pose with like an AK, and he's like. And they reuse that when you go to Egypt and you blow up the Sphinx. Okay, after you beat that stage, the cutscene, he goes, my favorite line, darn, no date with Cleopatra. I'm like, yes, fucking awesome. These dudes fucking rule, man. Like every line they say is like perfect. Like the other line he goes, I'm not wait, sorry, hang on. I'm not. Oh, damn it, I can't see because his pants are in the way. Oh, yeah. Like, they beat another boss, and he's like, no doubt about it. The king of the false gods is in a new realm by now. And you're like, oh, it's so fucking sweet, dude. Like, every line is amazing, man. I know. Every line is perfect. And I'm like, this game is fucking incredible, dude. So anyway, amazing. Yeah. Ended up having a lot of fun with it, and I'm just gonna. It's weird, man. Like it's a tough game, but also like I think if you just, it's so short.
Yeah.
And the bosses again are like pretty easy if you kind of know where to go. Like there's definitely patterns to them. Unlike the arcade. In the arcade, it's madness. Like I'm like, dude, there's no way. The Genesis version does not prepare you for the arcade. Yeah. Like you would get slaughtered.
Based on the reception you got when you said you beat it, apparently it's impressive that you beat it 1 player, but like 2 players, like everybody does it.
Cakewalk.
Oh yeah.
With 2 player. The biggest challenge with 2 player is who collects all the zenny.
Yeah.
All the money.
I was thinking about that. I was like, dude, well, what the fuck? There would be so many fights about it, right?
Yeah, no, because like you want to get that. I can't remember what the weapon's called, but there's like this heat-seeking laser kind of.
Oh
weapon,
hell yeah, yeah,
and it's
yeah,
completely OP. And if you're playing 2 player and you're splitting the money evenly, neither player will be able to afford it. And so there are fights. Yeah. Like, no, I wanted that zenny. And some of the zenny are like so they take the form of these like blue rings.
Yeah.
But they have a 3-dimensionality to them. I don't know. There's something about the zenny in this game that look fantastic.
Yeah.
I just like the word zenny that you keep saying.
I can't stop saying it. I know, dude. And most of them are like little tiny zenny. They're floating around the screen. You collect them. But then there are some like gigantic ones that are worth, X thousand zenny.
Yeah.
And when you see the giant one, you're playing 2 players. Holy shit, man. Like you're just like elbowing the other guy. Get away from my zenny.
Yeah. So
I feel like Mike has just read us like 4 different T-shirts we could do just from this fucking game.
You cannot stop me with
No.
You cannot stop me with C4 alone.
That's
also shout out to the shop.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, dude.
First of all, the shop music.
Oh, so good. I'm so glad you brought that up.
Ever lose that shop music loop from my head.
It's
the same loop over and over. It's like 10 seconds long.
Oh, man.
And it's so dumb and catchy. And there's the girl in the shop and she's like very polite. And I don't know, man. It's I'd never seen a shop like that in a game before.
I do very much love when a game does that thing, and I feel like I see it more in like sort of action-y adventure type games where 1 minute I'm being chased by a monster that's going to absolutely demolish me. And then I walk into a building and it's just like banjos and castanets all of a sudden. Like, what the fuck happened?
Yeah, crazy shift. They did the same thing actually in Lords of Thunder. The Lords of Thunder shop is very reminiscent of Forgotten Worlds, except that they take away the very simple little musical loop and replace it with fucking blazing guitar solos because it's Lords of Thunder. And even in a shop, you have to have that. It's absolutely stupid.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. I know, Paul. So I know, Paul, you've obviously played it a bunch. Kelly, Arnie, I don't know if you've gotten a chance to check it out. If you do, it's it's a fun time. It's definitely like a pulpy. It's a pulpy shmup. Like it's absolutely, you play it and you're kind of like, man, you don't play it for depth. You play it because there's spectacle. Like some of the bosses are pretty. Man, some of the boss designs are pretty gnarly. Man, like it's pretty metal shit.
I played it. I played it a few years ago, but I couldn't. At the time, I couldn't wrap my head around the like turning the thing to shoot.
Yeah.
So I feel like I need a second person, not to play as the second player, but to like hold the other half of the controller. I'll do the directional buttons and they can do the shooting.
Like holding a Ouija board piece.
Right.
One more thing on Forgotten Worlds.
Oh my god.
I've mentioned this on the show before, but it is worth mentioning. Big shout out to the sound effect when you get hit. It never fails to make me laugh every time. It's just a It's so
because
bad,
they're so buff.
So
it's like, that barely hit me.
Yeah, kind of. But it's even worse because it's digitized. Like, it's not even like when I do it, it's mildly amusing. But in the game, it's not even like, it's not even a person. It's like this weird facsimile of a person. So yeah, no, it's great. I don't mind getting hit in that game so much because it makes me laugh every time.
Yeah,
now that you mention it, it's like there are certain enemies that whenever you kill them, every single one you hear barrel, and you hear it like thousands of times, and after a while you're like, nothing. There was only barrel. There was only that. Like there is no light. Only barrel. Only barrel. You know.
Everybody buy my shmup coming up, Tapioca Tap Dancer. I've been working on it for years. It's a labor of...
I'm working on one called Archive Disaster.
There we go.
Yeah. What? You just named them anything, dude.
Yeah, literally.
Might as well.
Yeah, Beluga Whale Caviar coming soon from a cave.
Date with Cleopatra.
There we go.
That's
St. Bernard's Fire.
All right, well, I guess that about wraps that up. So we
I hope so.
will cut to a break and be right back. And we're back. Okay. And now we're up to what I have been playing.
Woohoo! Woohoo!
First up...
She's been avoiding it for an hour and a half.
No.
Finally.
I just like to control the end of
say,
the show, you know, so...
I was going to say very patiently listening to all of us ramble like morons, but yes.
First up is a game that, honestly, I've been wanting to play for a very long time. It's celebrating its 30th anniversary this year, so, yeah, the Super Nintendo game, Soul Blazer.
Oh, so cool.
Soul Blazer I had never played.
What kind of shmup is that?
It's the action RPG shmup, of course. We'll just make everything a shmup now.
But... That's right.
Yeah.
But Soul Blazer I never played back in the day, and I honestly just picked it up at the last Game On Expo that we had out here before the whole pandemic and everything else happened. Finally wanted to get a complete in-box copy of the game. At the time, it was about $150, which...
So you mortgaged your house.
Well, considering the price now, I think I made a pretty good
oh, yeah.
pretty good deal.
Oh, yeah.
I don't doubt it.
Just skyrocketed fairly recently, and I'm a little bit chagrined about it.
The person who sold it to you is actively tracking you down to get it back.
There's probably a lot of people tracking me down for the games that I bought just before all this happened. But every year I've put this game on my I'm going to play it this year list, and then things just kept falling through. But now that I have the Super NT and everything else, it's like, I've got to get some use out of that thing. I paid for it, got it in, got to get some use out of it. So I finally put Soul Blazer in. It took about 12 to 15 hours to beat, so honestly, for
nice.
an RPG, not that long.
That's that sweet spot.
Yeah. But basically, it just, you start out, you get dumped in a world, the world is empty, and you're basically told that everyone has been captured and that you have to free them from these dungeons and bring back their souls to the world.
Yeah.
And you just go around. One thing I did find quite interesting is the combat, since basically the monsters come out of these little portals, and it can be a group of monsters, anything from like 3 to 10. They just keep coming out of the portal, just spawning at that same portal spot until you kill them all, and then the portal will break, and you'll either free a soul or get some type of item or some type of upgrade. But for me, having no nostalgia goggles or anything else, having monsters come out of one single area, it was just kind of reminded me of Final Fantasy Mystic Quest of all things. Just because it's not really the same, because you're not going to an area and fighting the same enemy over and over, but just the fact that you just stand there and fight after fight after fight after fight. To me, it just seemed kind of an odd design choice.
Gotcha. It's like, what if the police station in Earthbound was a whole game?
Can you take out the portal? I apologize, man. I haven't played Soul Blazer at all. Can you, destroy any of the portals before they release everybody? Or is it just kind of like, you got to deal with all this stuff?
You got to deal with the enemies. And at some points in the game, they'll be, you need a certain sword to beat this enemy. Guess what? You won't get the sword till 3 dungeons later. So you'll have to come back here.
Also, it's a Metroidvania, is what you're telling me.
Not real. I mean, it's pretty straightforward, which I kind of liked, because when I first went into these dungeons, I was like, are these going to be super complicated? Am I going to get lost? Because you need to pretty much take out every single portal to beat the game. And just the 6 worlds and so on and so forth. And
this is like an overhead, like Zelda Link to the Past kind of game,
yes.
And it's part of is this the first in the series or the sequel? What is this?
No, this came after ActRaiser, right?
Well, it came after ActRaiser,
but it's not a sequel to ActRaiser.
It's considered more in the trilogy that Soul Blazer, Illusion of Gaia, and Terra Nigma.
And Terra Nigma.
Yeah.
That's right.
And
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And honestly, I was watching a retrospective on Terra Nigma on YouTube one time, long time ago, and that's when I found out that was pretty much a loose trilogy of games that had the same type of rebuilding the world and seeing what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
Fighting the evil that way.
A trilogy that's not confusing or hard to acquire or anything like that. Not like one of the games is exclusive to a particular region.
Every time I think of Terra Nigma and I'm like, oh man, I feel kind of chafed that we didn't get it. I'm like, wait, no. They got Terra Nigma and that was it. Like no Chrono Trigger, no Final Fantasy. So Europe got screwed back then for sure.
I still think that's not as bad as the Parasite Eve thing. Like, didn't they get 2 and not 1 or something?
Oh god,
I can't remember
really?
if it's Parasite Eve, but there's something like that. I just can't remember which one it is.
But they did get Overblood too, and we didn't get that. And that is forever gonna
win for them, right?
Make me sad.
I remember playing Soul Blazer, way back when I rented it, like I don't know, 5 times or something like that, or 3 times. Back in the day when you'd rent and then bring it back and hope nobody
saved over your save file.
Went over your save game.
Oh my fucking god, dude.
Yeah, no, that was the worst. But thankfully nobody deleted my save game and I was able to beat it. I don't know, it was a fun game. It's just a shame that it was so long ago and I haven't played it at all since. So I was kind of like, I remember it being okay, but I also remember it being okay, and I'm not like dying to go back to it. Is that what you kind of came out of it feeling, Kelly? Like it was okay, or was it
I think
good?
the problem, too, for me is that my husband had hyped it up because he loves that game and has played through it multiple times.
Yeah, but he also, doesn't he really love Vagrant Story? Like, you should know by now.
Know by now that...
that his taste is exquisite.
But I think there's a bit of nostalgia with him for that game. But I can remember I got to the end of the game and I was like, okay, I'm going to be the final boss and we'll be done with it. And he was like, no, you have to go back and get these 7 items, so go to each town and talk to this person and that person so you can have the ability to cast without using any mana and you'd be basically a god. I'm like, I don't like that. I don't like being a god. I like to actually have a challenge at the final boss, not sneeze on him and he falls over dead. So
oh yeah, for sure. I think the order of operations is challenging fight, then collect items, then go back and smash the boss with your invincible items. I think that's kind of how it should be done, so to speak.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I decided to skip out and go back and find all the items.
Yeah, no, there's no need. Once you see credits, we all know that's all that matters. Like you see credits, it goes on the list of completed games.
Disagree. But one thing too about the game that I found an odd choice is that in the first town you end up... Oh, sorry, spoilers for a 30-year-old game if anyone's truly interested. But in the first town you end up waking up a girl who tells you about... like her father was one of the ones that ended up getting all these people captured and their souls taken and everything else. And you think really nothing of her. You know, you talk to her for 5 seconds and then you move on. When you get to the end of the game, she basically professes her love to you. And you're asked, because you're basically a servant of the master, which would be God, I'm guessing.
Nice.
And the master asks you, do you want to become human and live your life with this woman? And pretty much the answer is, of course, they want you to give is yes. And it's like, I saw this girl for like fucking 3 minutes, and you want me to spend...
So I'm assuming then the screen goes black, and the only thing you can see is your reflection with tears streaming down your face as you weep.
If you look up...
Contemplate marriage.
If you look up the end sequence of this game, if you look it up, it's basically the girl staring off into the distance into a sunset, like waiting for your return. And I'm just like...
Sunset heart hands.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. So you have the option of getting with the girl, and then you go to Vegas, and she just sits there waiting for you?
Oh, I think they basically say it may take a while for you to be reincarnated and be with her and everything else. So it's just basically her staring, waiting for you.
That's right.
Classic quintet. Classic.
Like the loyal dog that turned to stone. Does everybody know that story?
Oh, yeah.
So she's just sitting there, just, life's just passing her by. Just one day you'll be a baby somewhere, I guess.
And I looked up the ending sequence, and apparently they switched it for the Western audiences because the girl in Japan had very anime style eyes and everything else.
I remember hearing about this.
And they had
years ago.
They had to westernize her and make her look more Western.
Stupid.
That's right.
Look way worse.
That's right.
Is what you mean. Yeah. They always...
I gotta look this up.
They cut to the American ending and it's just her with googly eyes on.
Yeah.
And a t-shirt says, "Don't tread on me."
That's right.
You're God, pretty much.
She cracks a Budweiser. She's like, all right.
So the gameplay, I mean, is it like is it sort of like similar to Zelda? Like in that sense, or is it a bit more strategic or tactical?
No, there's no
like...
strategy really. You got your sword.
Okay.
You stick your pointy end into the monsters, and they fall over dead.
Oh, nice.
That's important.
There is some.
I love
There is some magic, but I barely use the magic just because basically there's a little ball that rotates around you, and the magic will come out of the ball. So if you hit it at the wrong time, it's just out of sequence, and you just completely miss, and it's
the Forgotten World issue.
It can be extremely expensive. Every time you die and go back to the main camp, you lose all your magic, and you have to regain it by killing more monsters, and you get these little orbs that give you magic. Yeah.
Huh. That's kind of weird.
There is an item... there is an item that can save your mana when you die. But once again, I didn't go back and grab all that, and so on and so forth. And you can only have one item equipped at a time. So basically in boss fights, it would go, equip the item that gives you double damage until you get low on health. Then unequip that and equip the item that will basically revive you once, a medical herb. Yeah. Once you got that done, you go back and equip the item to do double damage again. And if you happen to get low health on health, then you could equip the item that will save your mana for the next attempt if you wanted to.
There you go.
But I'm way too lazy for that. So.
That sounds like Paul's dream. There's so many menus to navigate, so many things to manage.
I can't wait.
Have you played either of the other games, like Terranigma or Illusion of Gaia?
I have played Illusion of Gaia. Okay. I actually, as soon as I finished Soul Blazer, I put Illusion of Gaia back in to the Super NT. It's sitting in there right now because my goal is to play through all 3 of the games this year.
Gotcha.
Nice.
I was gonna say, if you remember, how does Gaia compare to Soul Blazer?
Gaia has a different. Basically, the battle system is completely different. You start off as the boy, basically, and you have like telekinesis powers and so on and so forth. And you also get a form where you're a big badass knight. And there's a third form that I can't really remember at this time, but I remember the badass knight was the one that you wanted to use most of the time. But they forced you into the boy most of the time, it seemed like. So.
Yeah, I wonder why all these young men have body dysmorphia. It's not because I wanted to be a buff space marine my whole life.
But the interesting thing about Illusion of Gaia, too, is as soon as I started up, the town music was stuck in my head because I played that game so many times when I was a child.
Yeah, you had the t-shirt.
That's right.
Yeah.
You had the big shirt.
Yeah.
The true sign of an OG.
Yeah.
It's true.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What else? What else have you been playing?
The other is my shame. So, in some ways.
Now I really want to hear about it.
If anyone does not know, I do have somewhat of an addiction to gacha mobile games. I play about 4 of them right now, I think, right now.
Wow, that's awesome.
In some ways, yes. In some ways, no.
Which ones? Just, I mean, obviously we want to talk about one in particular, but...
Obviously, Raid Shadow
anyway.
Legends.
Oh, no. I play Xenoblade, which is basically a PvP game. It's one where I've once said down, can we delay the podcast for a half hour? I have to go do my PvP battle in Xenoblade. That one, honestly, it's getting kind of old. I'm thinking of dropping the game, but because it is a 15-on-15 PvP system, I feel like I'm letting 14 other people down if I say, I don't want to play this anymore.
That's how they keep you.
That's how they get the claws in you.
Yeah.
Then there's a couple of them. One just started up. It's an Attack on Titan game. It's called Attack on Titan Brave Order. Only available in Japanese, so right now I'm part of a group that's trying to help translate the game so that anyone who wants to play it in English can go ahead and play that.
You want to make a whole new wave of victims.
Exactly. But everyone knows I'm super addicted to Attack on Titan, so but watching the new episode when it comes out today.
Get the Jaeger, man. Just get the Jaeger, man. Just
get on Jaeger.
Oh god. Dude, that hype intro, the original OP
Dude,
is still like
why would they ever go with a different intro? Why?
Yeah, they
had the perfect intro.
It's like Fist of the North Star.
Yeah.
It's like the original Fist of the North Star OP. It's like never do anything else. Like
no,
you got it.
Stick with that when you. Oh my god, it drives me nuts.
Jaeger. That's it. That's all I know. And I'm just like Jaeger, and I'm like, fuck yeah, dude. I don't even like Attack on Titan, but that OP makes me want to like punch God.
Okay, I've got to make you watch Attack on Titan now if you say you don't.
No, it's too many people yelling and screaming all the time.
We can watch the chibi version.
Dude, you watch Getter Robo Armageddon.
Oh. I know, but Getter Robo doesn't take itself so seriously. That's the thing. Yeah. And again, not a knock on Attack on Titan. It's obviously an awesome show. I just mean that like when a show gets too intense and everybody is just like screaming and depressed all the time, I'm like, I can't do this.
Yeah,
like,
I don't understand what you
fair.
think is too intense about the show with giant naked people eating other people.
Oh my god, dude!
I think
they look so freaky, so well designed.
I mean, that's part like that's what I love about it. Like there's great videos on Attack on Titan about how it's like it was the perfect time for this anime to come out.
Oh yeah,
because it was like Game of Thrones level intensity mixed with Walking Dead kind of similar zombie siege mentality.
Yeah.
And there's like so many videos where people like, because like honestly it was a phenomenon, man. When it came out, everybody was talking about Attack on Titan all of a sudden. It was like, it wasn't like that with any kind of manga or even anime before, like how much it permeated everywhere. And it was like, so people were like, how the fuck did this happen? And it was like, well, it happened because it was just like this perfect synergy of all these things that people were really into, all happening at the same time in this one manga. Like,
that's a good point.
Anime. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Do you want to watch children get torn apart limb from limb on a weekly basis?
With a kick-ass theme song, and they're fucking flying around like Spider-Man, like with fucking
you put that
swords.
Theme song on anything, and it's just better.
Oh, that's the thing.
Like,
so
good.
It's just a video of some guy like whittling on YouTube, but he just plays that on a loop.
It's so funny. It's just like Game of Thrones. I like da 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 da. I'm like, God, that fucking theme song. I gotta listen to it for hours, but like, I don't want to watch the show at all. It's just, but like, you look at them fucking flying around like Spider-Man and shit with swords. I'm like, please, can't this show just be less depressing? And I would so watch it, dude.
No, you should watch it anyways.
Anyway.
You really should.
No. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, Kelly. We got us all off track.
No. I could talk about Attack on Titan for hours, but it's probably...
I know, right? She's like, oh my God, when are we going to stop talking about this thing?
Yeah.
So can we get back to the basketball, please?
Basketball. That's my favorite. Shooting hoops.
Oh, okay. So that was the second gotcha.
The one that I'm going to talk about is called Last Cloudia. Last Cloudia.
Right. What a fucking name, too.
I know, right?
No
Jesus.
idea.
Speaking of shmups.
Yeah.
Is the Last Cloudia it's the year 2732? The last vape pen in existence is held by the evil empire.
Is there actually a last of anything, or is it just...
I think it's like Final Fantasy. We've got Final Fantasy. We've got Last Cloudia. Just make it sound it's...
Are you playing Genshin Impact at all?
I played that game for about 3 days. It didn't click with me, and the fact that like I was going to play it co-op with some people, and the co-op is just terrible in that game. So, at least in my opinion, I don't care for it. So, I bounced off that game pretty quickly. But Last Cloudia came out about the same time that there was another Attack on Titan game called Attack on Titan Tactics that came out, and I was playing that one, and it can get addicting to be like, okay, I'm going to try to roll for these new characters, and
you don't say.
And I refused to. At that point,
gambling is addictive.
At that time, I was refusing to spend any money whatsoever on these games. I was like, okay, I need another game so I can roll in that instead and get my fix my addiction on that. So I looked up a bunch of them, and the artwork for Last Cloudia is absolutely amazing. So
it's fantastic. Yeah.
So I downloaded that game, and honestly, the gameplay in it reminds me kind of like Star Ocean. Like the early Star Ocean games. It is an action RPG. The characters have 4 different moves that they can do. There's 3 standard moves and then 1 ultimate. And the character building in this game is absolutely insane. So I started it almost 3 years ago. The game's been out for almost 3 years. And I've just seen the amount of systems they've been adding to this game the entire time. You have a skill tree that's basically like Final Fantasy X for each and every character.
A sphere grid.
Yeah.
Ooh.
The superior skill system, in my opinion.
Agreed. I have all day for the sphere grid.
Love me a good sphere grid.
Yeah. So you have that for each and every character that you can build. Then each and every character can also equip arcs, which are another thing that you get from the gacha. But the arcs, I basically consider them like espers in Final Fantasy VI. So they're equips that you can put on. You can learn the spells and abilities on these arcs, and you'll keep them forever, but then the arcs themselves also have special abilities. And there's that system as well. You want to teach all your characters as many of these things as possible. So you can make, if you want to, you can make a character that's supposed to be a mage do a whole bunch of physical damage just by getting the attack ups and everything else that are on these arcs.
Yeah.
I'm seeing your eyebrows slightly raised, Paul.
Then there's also...
Why? Because of all these systems?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, that is appealing. The gacha part, not so much, but like Sphere Grid and other systems.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I'm into
there's
that.
alchemy as well, so you can upgrade your equipment and everything else.
Oh my god!
So you can just do so. Yeah,
weirdly enough, there's also a box like conveyor belt management system. I don't understand how it fits into the rest of the game.
All right, we're gonna have to end the show now. I'll be back in a few months.
Yeah,
but
no, that'd be great.
But the surprising thing for me for Last Cloudia is it is the one game I keep coming back to because the storyline in this game is almost PS2 quality. And it reminds me a lot of PS2 era just because of Final Fantasy X, Grandia 3, games like that, because the plot point in the beginning is basically you have a girl that's going to sacrifice herself to save the world and her party that has to try and find a different way to save the world without sacrificing the girl.
God, so much serotonin just released into my brain. I'm like, oh yes, this is my happy place.
Yeah, so there is an actual story, which is an actual pretty good story, which is rare for a gacha game. Usually they're just trying to get you to spend money. And they do update it regularly. So
good.
They actually finished the first storyline where you actually beat the big bad, and so on and so forth, and they're starting a second one. So it's almost like Last Cloudia is over, here's Last Cloudia 2, but you're just playing, the second part of the game.
Yeah.
To make Arnie and Paul salivate even more, now that I'm looking at gameplay, the in-engine cutscenes for any of the story, like it's Project Triangle, it's like Octopath style, like pixel. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful
gorgeous
stuff. Also, I'm sorry, Kelly, I'm gonna call you out on this. Boy, there happens to be an Attack on Titan collab with Last Cloudia, is there?
It just ended like a week ago, and
there is.
I'm seeing on your LinkedIn
so cool.
that you're the executive producer on the game. Wow, that's strange.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. The collaborations that they do appeal to pretty much everyone. Like a lot of the games. Cool. A lot of these gacha games, they'll bring in the recent anime, and that's about it. But if you look at Last Cloudia, they have a collaboration with Secret of Mana, Trials of Mana, Full Metal Alchemist.
Ooh.
Oh, really?
Devil May Cry 5.
Oh, that's cool, man.
And then, of course, Attack on Titan. Yes, I did get Levi. Yeah. Yes, I did get Mikasa. Yes, I do have Eren.
Right.
Maybe I did save a lot to get all of them, and I didn't have to.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah,
man, that's super cool that like it does those kinds of like collabs, especially with like other game properties and like more fan service and stuff. Like honestly, Full Metal Alchemist, that's a huge win.
Well, what you need
that
to understand in terms of like scope is that these people could buy like 20,000 Picassos. Like they're that fucking rich.
Yeah,
like,
but at the same time, it costs a lot. Yeah, but it costs a lot too to like get some of that stuff, man. Like, I mean, wow.
Does it though? Like, doesn't each property kind of benefit from the other? Isn't it more symbiotic? Well, like, I wonder who pays who for what.
They definitely pay the rights to get them on there for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, doesn't it help Attack on Titan's exposure?
But remember the burn and the overhead on some of these games is not insignificant, right? Like, I mean, it's not like don't get me wrong, like it is obviously designed and engineered to be run, like they want to maximize profits. They want to maximize like, okay, like what's the easiest and cheapest way that we can create more content to get more people playing it that doesn't involve a lot of bug testing and stuff. But it's like anything, man. Like there's never like a surefire win. There's no one out there who's going, just Prince Buddy, this is brilliant. Like even the biggest money making games like that, it's like movies, right? Like as much as Marvel movies make, they spend so much more just getting it out there and handling all this stuff,
Well, tell that to Fortnite, who's giving out like $10 million for their tournaments.
Right. Tell it to the developers who are working themselves with no fucking sleep.
Oh yeah, no. I'm sure like several crazy, people have just dropped dead on the floor of whatever office building that is.
Dude, Arnie's there cracking the whip, man. Jesus Christ.
Right.
Oh man.
Get back on it. Let's add the weekend to Fortnite now.
So with Last Cloudia, like, so I haven't really played any gacha games, Kelly. So does Last Cloudia, like, is it the kind of thing where there's so like a certain amount of like energy you have as currency, you can only do a limited amount of things to a day, or is it just like fuck it, you can play as much as you want?
There's basically two types of gacha games. There's the ones that have the stamina system limited to the amount of, so you can only play a certain amount per day, and then there's ones that are endlessly more grindy, which takes a lot more to upgrade your characters in these games and everything else, but you can play as much as you want. Last Cloudia is definitely one of the second. So it's definitely the grindy game. Okay. If you ever see on Steam it pop up saying that Sierra is playing Last Cloudia, most likely I have it on auto, where I just have one stage running over and over and over again. Wow,
you could do that, or did you have a special macro made up to do that?
They released a version on Steam officially, and there is a button that's basically auto grind. So it just restarts the game over and over.
Can you do that shit in like RuneScape and stuff? Like there are some games that like let you automate like a lot of the bullshit.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure. I was just wondering if it was a fan macro. I was just wondering if it was like a fan macro or something.
They originally,
unofficial.
There was no auto feature, and people were using macros and everything else, and they were getting banned because third-party applications can be malicious and everything else. So they banned a bunch of people. But then they decided to actually put out a feature for it, so that
Did those people get unbanned? Are they like all the people in like California who got arrested for weed back in the day? And like, this is
they walked so Kelly could run.
That's right.
But I don't know. Gacha games just kind of fascinate me. Or even all free-to-play games, really. They fascinate me, and just seeing how predatory they can be towards getting you to spend money.
Yeah.
I have spent a little bit of money on Last Cloudia, I think $15 total. But for me, when I play a game this much, throwing that much at a developer to say...
I know.
Oh, that's not... like 15? That's nothing.
Divided by the number of hours you've been playing.
Exactly. So if there's something I want that I can get pretty cheaply, it's like... I would be paying $60 for a game. I've played this one for 200 hours. I can throw $15 at it to get it.
Yeah,
that's
but
awesome.
Just seeing,
that'll pay the child laborers they have coding this game for sure.
I think gacha games are fascinating to me. Like I haven't played any, but like it's the same thing, Kelly. It's really interesting. Like it's exactly like you're saying. Like it's such a weird, murky thing, because on one hand, yes, you can absolutely point to, and even in Last Cloudia and in the good ones, you can probably point to like, oh, look at this predatory practice, or look at this. But at the same time, if it's fun, playing it, and even without having to spend a ton of money, it's still fun. If the presentation pops and you dig the characters and you want to be in the world, like, why not? And I think like that's the thing, is there's some gacha games that I look at that I'm like, I'm not really into the type of gameplay, but goddamn, give me a normal video game set in that world, and oh my god, I'll be right there. I was gonna ask, like, would you love like a Last Cloudia game, like if they just made like Grand Blue Fantasy, right? They're coming out with an action RPG, like an official kind of console thing. Yeah. And that started as a gacha thing. Like do you think Last Cloudia will ever do that, or would you want that? Like, or is this kind of like the way that you like to play this? You know what I mean? Like, would you want like a fully fledged
I think it would make a good fully fledged game. There's enough lore there for the world. Like each arc you get, you can read the story of how it can be each character. You can read their backstory. There's just so much lore that you can dig into. So an actual full-fledged game, I think, could work for Last Cloudia for sure.
Yeah, you can't have a game around for this long without it having evolved and have a lot of depth to it.
That's what I think is so cool. Like, that's why I think I don't begrudge anybody for getting into this stuff, because to me, it's like, it's different than when you're playing some, Candy Crush gacha or some city building thing. Because here it's like, there might be some of those kind of gacha elements, but at the same time, like, there's still so much there for you to chew on regardless, and so much kind of effort put into the presentation. Like, it's, I don't know, that's cool to me.
The communities that build up around these games are pretty awesome too. Yeah. Because they see the new units come out and they're instantly crushing numbers and saying, this one will be good, this will be bad, this is how you want to build it. It's cool. It's just amazing what they come up with.
Yeah.
I feel like the instinct to play these is the same instinct of people who like enjoy MMOs and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, you just got to be willing to
right?
acknowledge like this is never going to end, and I'm fine with
Yep.
that because I like it.
Well, it will end,
You
and
know?
you'll lose absolutely everything when they say,
Well,
we're not making enough money and shutting down. But
Aw.
that's why when I do spend money in these games, I always think, if it shut down tomorrow, would I still be happy that, with all the time that I've played, would this
Great way.
make me go, oh my god, I can't believe I spent fucking money on that? And as long as the answer is I'll be fine with it, then I can spend the money.
Yeah. As the developers sail away on their mega yacht, was it worth all the time and effort that you put in?
Powered by small children and like running
Just
on
kicking
hamster wheels.
over on the edge.
Yeah, pressing big candy buttons. Yeah, that's cool,
Anyhow.
man.
Well, I think that about wraps it up for what we have been playing today. Once again, I do want to give a great shout out to our listeners. Thank you so much. Please come interact with us. Linktree, Region Free Gamers. Would love to see you on our Discord. Would love to just hear a review from you, whatever. So, thank you so much, and we will see you next time.